of 2023, thereby committing the bill to a mediation committee pursuant to Article 112(2)(b) of the Constitution, and now therefore, in accordance with the provisions of Article 112 of our Constitution and Standing Order 149 of the National Assembly Standing Orders, I hereby convey the said decision of the National Assembly to the Senate and to seek the appointment of senators to the Mediation Committee on the bill. Honorable Senators, the Speaker of the National Assembly, consequent to the said decision, appointed the following members of the National Assembly to the Mediation Committee to consider the bill in accordance with Article 113 of the Constitution. The Honorable Ndini Nyoro MP, the Honorable G.K. Kariuki MP, the Honorable Mary Emase MP, the Honorable Kipchumba Toroitich MP, and the Honorable Anthony Olwoch MP, the Honorable Joshua Kimilu MP, and lastly, the Honorable Catherine Omayo MP. Now, Honorable Senators, pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 166(2) of the Senate Standing Orders, I'm in the process of appointing senators to the Mediation Committee. I thank you. Next order.
Order number 4, petitions. Order number 5, papers. Order number 6, notices of motion. Order number 7, questions and statements.
Honorable Senators, we'll start with the statements pursuant to Standing Order 52(1). Senator Lominen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 52(1) to make a statement of general topical concern concerning the urgent need to discontinue the curfew in major towns and centers in Aro sub-county, Turkana County. Mr. Speaker, sir, I address this statement as a matter of urgency and importance that directly affects the livelihoods, security, and well-being of our constituents in Aro sub-county, Turkana County. Specifically, I am requesting the Senate and the Cabinet Secretary of the Ministry of Interior to reevaluate and discontinue the curfew imposed on major towns and centers such as Lokicher, Nakabosan, Kekunyuk, Kalemorok, Kaputir, Kakongu, and Kainuk along the highway. Mr. Speaker, sir, there are several compelling reasons to consider discontinuing the curfew in these insecure prone areas in North Rift region, as it appears to be falling short of its intended objectives and may, in fact, be causing more harm than good. Mr. Speaker, sir, the curfew has been ineffective in achieving its key objectives. The primary purpose of a curfew...
Karen, kindly take your seat.
The primary purpose of a curfew in in secure-prone areas is typically to enhance security and protect citizens from potential threats during certain hours. If it is observed that the curfew is not effectively achieving these goals, its continuation may be questionable since security officers seem to be selectively allowing some vehicles and persons to move during exceptional times of the curfew. Moreover, Mr. Speaker, crime rates during curfew hours have escalated in towns such as Lokcher, Kalemorok, and Kainuk compared to non-curfew hours. Mr. Speaker, sir, curfew have hindered economic activities in towns and major centers where people rely on evening or night time work. This disruption has impacted livelihoods and income thresholds, exacerbating the economic challenges faced by Kenyans. The flow of goods has been disrupted, affecting businesses since transportation, trucks, and passengers have to disrupt journeys in curfew activated towns and centers. Mr. Speaker, sir, curfew have disrupted normal social activities and routines, affecting community life in Aro sub-county. Despite these disruptions, it has become evident that curfews are ineffective in eradicating insecurities, banditry, and cattle rustling. If the curfew is preventing social gatherings or communal activities without corresponding increase in security, lifting it may help restore a sense of normalcy. Mr. Speaker, sir, prolonged or ineffective curfews can lead to frustration among the populace, potentially resulting in civic unrest. If there is a perception that the curfew is not contributing to enhance security, lifting it may serve to prevent tensions from escalating. The community of Aro sub-county lacks trust that the curfew is effectively addressing insecurity, especially since the plan to evict bandits has not been well executed by the security officers mandated to do so. Mr. Speaker, sir, rather than relying solely on curfews, it is crucial to explore and invest in community policing initiatives and alternative security measures, building trust between law enforcement and the community, and encouraging community involvement in security matters can be more sustainable approach to address insecurity. Mr. Speaker, sir, criminal elements may adapt to curfews by changing their activities to times outside the restricted hours. If it is evident that criminals are adjusting their behavior without reduction in criminal incidents, in question the efficacy of curfew as a security measure. Mr. Speaker, sir, in light of these concerns, I explore the Senate and the Ministry of Interior to review the imposition of curfew in Aro sub-county and consider alternative strategies that will genuinely contribute to the safety and security of our constituents. Mr. Speaker, sir, finally, in conclusion, the safety and well-being of our constituents are paramount, and it is our duty as a representative to ensure that government measures are effective and service the best interests of the community. I request all the senators to consider this matter seriously and collaborate to find solutions that will enhance security without unduly impacting the lives and livelihoods of our people. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Mazayo.
I thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise pursuant to Standing Order number 52, subsection 1, to make a statement on a matter of national and general topical concern namely on the irregularity in the results of the Kenya Certificate of Primary Education, KCPE 2023. Mr. Speaker, sir, on 23rd of November 2023, the Cabinet Secretary for Education, Honorable Ezekiel Mashogu, CBS, released the 2023 KCPE results. However, parents and schools are in uproar and discrepancies emerge in the end results. The Kenya National Examination Council, KNAEC, erroneously awarded some candidates wrong marks and assigned grades for subjects candidates.
What is the point of order, Senator Kinyua?
Mr. Speaker, I wanted your guidance because I think the same statement was seeked yesterday by Senator Asige. I just want your clarification, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Kinyua, exercise some bit of patience so that at the end of this statement, you will know what aspects Senator Mazayo is touching on that may be materially different with the aspects of the statement that was given yesterday. Some subject matter, but touching on different aspects. Proceed, Senator Mazayo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Kenya National Examination Council erroneously awarded some candidates wrong marks and assigned grades and subjects candidates did not sit at all four. Noticeably, errors that emerged from various students was the awarding of marks for the Kenya Sign Language subjects, yet students had not sat for the said subjects, and grades in science and social studies and religious education were truncated incorrectly and were missing from the plus and minus signs. Mr. Speaker, sir, the Form 1 placement exercise began on 27th of November 2023 and is said to be completed within 2 weeks in order to give parents and guardians adequate time to prepare for their children to join secondary schools in 2024. However, the Ministry of Education has not stated the measures put in place to ensure that all students aggrieved with the results irregularities are not disadvantaged in the selection process. Mr. Speaker, sir, an example is drawn from the Moi Primary School, Kabarak, which is among the schools that addressed their displeasure at the Kenya National Examination Council, requesting for a review of the results as the same did not reflect the ability of their candidates. Mr. Speaker, sir, it is imperative that we take note of these complaints and their potential impact on our education system. The marking for the Kenya Certificate of Secondary Education exam is yet to start, and such occurrences tend to shake the confidence of parents and schools having their countries' examination system. Mr. Speaker, Section 10, subsection 1A of the Kenya National Examination Council Act gives the Council the mandate to set and maintain the examination standards, conduct public academic, technical, and other national examination within Kenya at basic and tertiary levels. The irregularities have portrayed a picture of a council's failure to execute its function to deliver credible results to students who have toiled for 8 good years. Mr. Speaker, finally, we note that this was the last cohort of the 844 system sitting for the KCPE examination, and we hope that such occurrences of irregularities will not be embraced in the competency-based curriculum. This year's KCPE results will go down in history as one of the worst hit by irregularities since inception of the 844 system in 1985. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Mazayo, you have another statement to make under Standing Order 52.1, yeah?
Yes, I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Proceed.
Mr. Speaker, I rise pursuant to Standing Order number 52.1 to make a statement on a matter of national and general topical concern, namely on the irregularities of the results. Oh, I'm repeating the same. I'm sorry for the mix-up, Mr. Speaker, sir. I will repeat again. I will not go to the first paragraph of introduction of the standing orders. I'll go straight and say that this is in pursuant of unconstitutional introduction of the housing levy through amendment of Section 84 of the Finance Act, whose effect introduces amendment to the Employment Act. Mr. Speaker, I take cognizance of the ruling delivered by the High Court on the 28th of November 2023 that declared the housing levy unconstitutional. As per the ruling by Justice Meoli, Majanja, and Mugambi, for any tax legislation to pass the rule of law test, it must have a rational connection to the legitimate government purpose. Otherwise, the tax legislation will be arbitrary and unconstitutional. To this end, Mr. Speaker, I wish to point out that this House, I repeat, Mr. Speaker, to this end, Mr. Speaker, I wish to point out to this House that the projected collection from the housing levy is as follows: that on the financial year 2023 to 2024, Kenya shillings 63.2 billion. Number two, financial year 2024 to 2025, 70 billion. Number three, financial year 2025-2026, 78 billion. Number four, financial year 2020. Financial year 2025-2026, 78 billion. Mr. Speaker, I'm acutely aware that the housing levy, as provided for in the Finance Act 2023, violates the principles of taxation and are discriminatory and unfair by making a distinction between formal and informal income earners, thus creating unequal and inequitable principles of taxation. Mr. Speaker, I would therefore like to call upon this Honorable House, through the Standing Committee on Roads, Transport and Housing, and the Standing Committee on Finance and Budget, to liaise with the counterpart committees at the National Assembly to pursue the matter with a view of stopping any further deductions from Kenyans and coming up with a clear plan on how the Kenya Revenue Authority will refund the money collected from August 23 to November 23 to the citizens of this republic. Mr. Speaker, finally, in light of the ruling of the High Court, I call upon this Honorable House, through the Standing Committee on Finance and Budget and the Standing Committee on Justice, Legal Affairs and Human Rights, to liaise with a counterpart at the National Assembly to re-evaluate and review the Finance Act 2023 with the aim of aligning it with the Constitution of Kenya 2010. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity.
Statements pursuant to Standing Order 53.1. Senator George Mbugua.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Lands, Environment and Natural Resources regarding the illegal dealings at the Ministry of Lands, Public Works, Housing and Urban Development. In the statement, the committee should, 1, provide a report outlining the extent of irregular acquisition or land grabbing of government and private land in the country, and provide a list of documented cases, including the person numbers and the respective beneficiaries. And 2, state the safeguards in place by the government to prevent fraudulent transactions relating to public and private land. And 3, provide a status update on the digitization of land records and transactions to enhance transparency and reduce the potential for illegal dealings. And 4, to indicate the actions by the government against public officers involved in the illegal land transactions and fraudulent acquisition and sale of both private and public land. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Osotsi. Anyone holding brief for Senator Osotsi? That statement is dropped. Senator Karen Nyamu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee of National Security, Defense, and Foreign Relations on the upsurge of a popular trend known as aluta in Nairobi City and its environs, involving the sale of alcohol and other substances beyond the recommended hours. In the statement, the committee should, 1, outline plans, if any, by the government to address the concerning rise in uncontrolled alcohol consumption, clubbing, and partying among the youth, particularly in Nairobi and other urban areas. Number 2, provide comprehensive statistics on licensed nightclubs, bars, wines and spirits establishments in Nairobi County, indicating whether they pose any risks to nearby communities. Number 3, state measures put in place by the government to ensure strict adherence to the legally prescribed hours for the sale of alcoholic drinks as outlined in the 4th schedule of the Alcoholic Drinks and Control Act of 2010. Number 4, spell out plans by the government, if any, to ban and control the escalating aluta activities that pose a significant threat to the lives of young individuals at risk of substance abuse, including alcohol. And finally, Mr. Speaker, outline the government's initiatives to address the growing number of wines and spirits outlets within residential estates in Nairobi City County, clarifying whether there are any legislative gaps that may be addressed to regulate and better manage the abuse of alcohol and other substances. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Bone, you can only rise on a point of order when another senator is on their feet. Senator Bone, where I sit, at the time you're standing on a point of order, Senator Karen had actually completed making her request for that statement.
Yes. Mr. Speaker, indulge me under Standing Order number 1. The debate in this House is not just for our consumption, Mr. Speaker. It's also meant for the public. Mr. Speaker, majority of the members here are good speakers of the English language. He's speaking of something called aluta. And in the English language, I do not know what it means. Mr. Speaker, under Standing Order number 105, I request that you allow her to tell us what aluta means, because we want to follow her. We need to know.
Very well, Senator Boni, Senator Karen, kindly explain what aluta is. Proceed.
Mr. Speaker, the trend I'm talking about involves the consumption of alcohol or partying and clubbing on a continuous mode, non-stop, from Friday evening, for instance. You choose to remain in the club until until Monday morning, whereby young Kenyans and the youth at the age bracket of, say, 19 years to, say, even 40 years are exposed in a party mood on an autopilot where it is non-stop. They don't go home, they don't take a shower, and there are existing laws, Mr. Speaker, that regulate the time that alcohol should be sold according to the alcohol bill of 2010. Mr. Speaker, in developed world, in the developed world, in the West, where we copy a lot of things, and let's face it, they're ahead of us in many ways. Clubs are closed at 2 a.m. No partying goes on in the United States of America, for example, past 2 a.m. Here in Kenya, the youth who are supposed to be participating in economic activities, the people who the future of our country relies on, are busy partying, thinking of nothing beyond tomorrow than having a good time the next weekend. Mr. Speaker, if we continue like this, we are going to lose a whole generation. I have a personal experience where in the University of Nairobi, I met a very good friend who was in Alliance High School, Mr. Speaker. A very bright, beautiful friend of mine who was schooling with me at the University of Nairobi Law School. And Mr. Speaker, we were exposed to an environment where our parents are not in campus, so you had to make your choice, whether you want to drink and party nonstop. And Mr. Speaker, as we speak, we lost my friend some years back because, for me, Mr. Speaker, I had a doting father who kept checking on me my every step.
So,
and
Senator Karen, just have your seat.
Mr. Speaker, I'm just trying to demonstrate the effects of
Senator Karen, just take your seat, please. Order, honorable senators. If I got you correctly, Senator Karen, aluta means non-stop partying. Can that sum up the very long statement you're giving us? Aluta means, is it a concept?
Mr. Speaker, if you put it that way, if you say it's non-stop partying, someone might assume that this person is partying, normal partying hours, like they're partying till 6 a.m., going home and partying tomorrow.
Order, Senator Kenyo. Do you partake of these parties?
Mr. Speaker, there are notorious clubs, nightclubs, about 7 of them in Nairobi. I will take you round, Mr. Speaker, if you want, on Sunday morning.
Order! Order, honorable senator. Order!
On Sunday morning,
Order,
Mr. Speaker.
Honorable senators, can the senator
Mr. Speaker,
be
on
silent?
Sunday morning, as others are going to church.
Senator Karen, you can only take me around churches in Nairobi. Conclude.
But Mr. Speaker, as other people are going to church on Sunday morning, you will see another different type of church. And at some point, when they are very drunk, they will break into gospel song, and the DJ will lead them into a service and a mock service. And Mr. Speaker, when you see the videos that are coming from these parties, it is very sad because the age group, I would not be very concerned if it was Senator Mazayo involved in that. The age group is very worrying because these children, first of all, they don't have...
Honorable senators.
They don't have a source of income. They live with their parents, so they don't have a source of income. So my worry is, and the case study that we should also carry, where is this money for non-stop partying coming from? It could be funded by the popular Wababas, taking advantage of our girls. Mr. Speaker, this trend...
Senator Karen, I think we've understood what you meant. Let's leave it at that.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Hezena. Senator Hezena, proceed to make your statement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And this is a request for a statement on waste management in Samburu County. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Land, Environment and Natural Resources regarding the state of waste management in Samburu County. In the statement, the committee should, 1, provide an overview of the waste management infrastructure and systems currently in place within Samburu County, particularly in Maralal town, highlighting any recent improvements. Secondly, provide details on the budgetary allocation for garbage collection and sewerage services for the county for the financial year 2023-2024, and table the itemized list of all payments made so far to each garbage collector and sewerage service provider. And thirdly, elaborate on any short and long-term initiatives or collaborations within the relevant stakeholders aimed at promoting waste reduction, recycling, and community engagement to enhance overall cleanliness and sanitation within the county. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Miraj.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on National Security, Defense and Foreign Relations regarding the unsafe measures and protocols by employees of the county government of Mombasa responding to flood disaster in the county. In the statement, the committee should state the numbers of persons engaged by the county government of Mombasa to unclog stormwater drainage systems in the county to mitigate against floods. Further stating whether the said individuals are employees or volunteers of the county government, giving their terms of employment. 2, provide the number of persons involved in the unclogging of water storm drainages in Mombasa County who lost their lives and ones injured during the exercise. 3, state whether the individuals involved in the rescue of floods victims had prior trainings and skills, safety equipment and tools, and confirm if there were lapses in adhering to safety standards leading to loss of lives. And 4, outline the emergency interventions put in place to promote the welfare and safety of county employees involved in disasters responses, including medical care for the injured and compensation plans for families of disaster response personnel who die in the line of duty. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Senator Lomenan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Roads and Transportation regarding the need for construction of feeder roads in the boundary-prone North Rift counties of Turkana, Samburu, Baringo, and West Pokot, with a view to opening up the area and boosting security operations. In the statement, the committee should, 1, state the plans the government has, if any, to construct and grade the following rural access feeder roads in the region, specifically A, Marigat, Kapedo, Lomelo, Napetom, Lokori, Lokwamosing, Nakukulas, Lokicher, Road. B. Lomelo, Nadome, Ngilukia, Kamuge, Lokori Road. And C. Lokori Kidewa, Parigati, Baragoi Road, all in Suguta Sub-County, Turkana East Constituency. A. Kakongo, Lokwamosing Road. B. Loyapat Lokwar Road. C. Lokwar Kakongo Road. D. Lorokon Nakwamoru Kapelibok Juluk Locherelim Kotarik Road. E. Juluk Kalomwe Nariwomoru Road. F. Kainuk Lotongot Lochakula Road. G. Kakongo Nariamao Locheresekon Namambu Road. And H. Nakabosan Nakwakipi Nakaparaparat, all in Aro Sub-County in Turkana South Constituency. And finally, Mr. Speaker, sir, Locherelim Lopuke Road, Naipa Moruongor Road, Naipa Ulukuse Napaka Akali Road, Lobei Kangole Lorengipi Road, all in Lokriama Sub-County, Loima Constituency. And two, provide the timelines within which the government will conclude the works on these roads to facilitate access to the government services and aid in curbing lawlessness in these said areas. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Chimera.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Request for statement on the brutal attack on tourists at Pioneer Beach Resort and Spa in Diani, Kwale County. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on National Security, Defense and Foreign Relations regarding the recent attack incident at the Pioneer Beach Resort and Spa in Diani, Kwale County. In the statement, the committee should, number one, Mr. Speaker, provide a comprehensive overview of the security incident at the Pinewood Beach Resort and Spa, including the number of individuals involved, the extent of injuries sustained by the guests and staff, and the health status of those affected. Number two, Mr. Speaker, outline actions taken by the relevant authorities to address and resolve the security breach at the resort, highlighting measures put in place by the government to ensure the safety and security of tourists, guests, and employees in Kenya's hospitality sector, particularly on popular tourist destinations like Diani. Number three, Mr. Speaker, clarify whether there are any existing security protocols and regulations governing the protection of hotels and resorts, and if so, assess the effectiveness in preventing such incidents. Number four, Mr. Speaker, investigate the coordination between law enforcement agencies and private security firms in their response to security threats at tourist establishments, providing an update on the progress of ongoing investigations into the identity and motives of the attackers and bringing them to book. And last, Mr. Speaker, recommend strategies to enhance the overall security of Kenya's tourism sector, emphasizing the importance of promoting a secure and welcoming environment for both domestic and international visitors. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Osotsi, your statement was called earlier, and it was dropped because you were not in the chamber. However, having explained your absence to the satisfaction of the chair, you may now proceed to read the statement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me that opportunity. Indeed, I was still chairing the meeting of CPIC. Mr. Speaker, I wish to request for a statement on the implementation of automated revenue collection and management systems in counties. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Finance and Budget regarding the implementation of automated revenue collection and management systems in counties. In the statement, the committee should, 1, provide a status update on the implementation of automated revenue collection and management systems in all the 47 counties, disclosing details on the nature and cost of systems, the respective vendors, and the total revenue collected by the systems so far. Number 2, clarify whether the Commission on Revenue Allocation, CRA, was involved in the assessment of the suitability of the respective systems, and if so, highlight the recommendations made by the Commission pursuant to Article 216(2) of the Constitution. 3, undertake a comprehensive system audit of all the systems to include a detailed database level audit, a data storage infrastructure audit, a network security audit, a detailed application system audit, and a systems administration mechanism audit. Number 4, cause the Public Procurement Regulatory Authority to assess and report on the adherence of the tendering process, contractual and service level agreements to applicable laws and regulations. And 5, cause the Office of the Auditor General to assess and report on the value for money and indicate the impact of the systems on the on-source revenue in the respective counties. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Mutinda.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Education regarding the relaying of erroneous results for the 2023 Kenya Certificate of Primary Education by the Kenya National Examination Council. In this statement, Mr. Speaker, I need the committee to disclose the nature of agreement between the NEC and the SMS provider contracted to release the 2023 KCPE results, indicating the provider's level of access to NEC servers that host the results and the security protocols in place. Number 2, table the 2023 KCPE results for Brainstar Academy, Kitengela International School, and Moi Kabarak Primary School, clarifying whether an audit of the results was conducted to ascertain their accuracy. 3, report on the suitability of the SMS results relaying system in the relaying results of future examinations, noting that the 2023 Kenya Certificate of Secondary Education examinations results are yet to be released. And finally, Mr. Speaker, state the measures in place, if any, to address the anomalies arising from the SMS results relaying system in order to prevent recurrence of the same. Thank you.
Honorable Senators, before we move to the statements by committee chairpersons, allow me to make the following communication. Honorable Senators, as you may recall, at the sitting of the Senate held on Thursday, 5th of October 2023, the temporary Speaker, then Senator Abdul Haji MP, directed the Senator for Vihiga County, Senator Godfrey Osotsi MP, to substantiate utterances made in the course of debate. The direction of the Speaker was made following a point of order by Senator Fonandi, Senator Samson Cheranke MP, pursuant to Standing Order 105-1. At this point of order, Senator Samson Cherange MP stated as follows. Under Standing Order number 105 and 110, is it in order for my brother Senator Osotsi to incite the people of Aldai and Vihiga by alleging and stating as a matter of fact on the floor of the House that there are border clashes in Serem and Vihiga. This has not been recorded in any police station. A reading of the Hansard indicates that the statement that Senator Godfrey Osotsi, MP, was called upon to substantiate states as follows. We've had issues even recently in my county, in the boundary between Vihiga and Aldai at a place near Serem. This was very recent, in the last month. The attackers came, provoked, and attacked a village, killed animals, burnt them, injured people, and burnt houses. That was not given the coverage that Sondu is now being given now. Honorable Senator, Standing Order 1051 states as follows. A senator shall be responsible for the accuracy of any facts that the senator alleges to be true and may be required to substantiate any such facts instantly. Further, Standing Order 1052 states as follows. If a senator has sufficient reason to convince the Speaker that the senator is unable to substantiate the allegation instantly, the Speaker shall require such senator substantiate the allegations not later than the sitting day, the next sitting day, failure to which the senator shall be deemed to be disorderly within the meaning of Standing Order 121, unless the senator withdraws the allegations and gives a suitable apology. At the sitting of the Senate held on the 5th of October 2023, Senator Osotsi MP was not able to substantiate his statements as required under Standing Order 1051. Senator Osotsi subsequently requested to be allowed by the Speaker to provide the evidence at the next sitting in accordance with Standing Order 1052. On Wednesday, 18th of October 2023, I consequently invited Senator Osotsi MP to table the evidence in support of the statement made on Thursday, 5th of October 2023. Thereupon, the said senator tabled a USB flash drive containing electronic material in support of his claim. I thereafter undertook to review the evidence and give a ruling on this matter. Further, via the letter dated 19th of October 2023, the senator requested for the admission of a certified copy of a charge sheet dated 16th of August 2023, police case number 722/237/2023, and OB number 3/15/8/2023 as part of the evidence on the allegations made. Following the tabling of the evidence by Senator Osotsi MP, I undertook to review the documents and give a ruling on the matter, as it was not practical to make a determination then. Now, honorable senators, as you may recall, in my communication to the Senate made on Thursday, 16th of November 2023, I indicated to the House that any document evidence tabled by a senator in this House as evidence for substantiation of any allegations made under Standing Order number 105 must pass a certain threshold. Thereafter, highlighted the parameters for undertaking an assessment of the evidence table, including one, is the evidence table from a source which by parliamentary practice is official and admissible, and two, if the answer to A is in the affirmative, does the evidence relate to and verify the claim that was made and for which substantiation was required? Honorable senators, that being the case, the first parameter to which is subjected the documents or material table was whether the evidence table was from a source which by parliamentary practice is official and admissible. A review of the USB flash drive indicates that it contained a folder titled Border Clashes in Kaptikani, Koitabut. The folder had the following: an undated 38 seconds TV 47 Kenya video clip showing images of dilapidated buildings and cut banana trees named in a disturbing incident on August 15th, year not indicated. A group of 100 youths attacked Koitabut village, Nandi County, leaving destruction in their wake. 2, an undated 2-minute 25-second Citizen TV News video clip named maafisa na wakazi wa Kapkitani wafanya kikao na viongozi kufuatia visa vya uvamizi kaunti ya Nandi. The video clip indicates the residents of Kaptikani village in Aldai constituency and security personnel in the area held a meeting following an attack on an individual in the area, and that 3 houses were burnt and property destroyed. The news clip also indicates that the attack was an alleged retaliatory following the death of a gentleman in the area and destruction of his motorbike. The clip further indicates that 3 suspects have been arrested in connection with the retaliatory attack. 3, an undated video clip named VAD 2023-1018 WA000 showing a burnt structure and livestock. And 4, an image named WhatsApp image 2023-1018 at 13:08:15 showing burnt livestock. As you're all aware, established practice in the Parliament of Kenya and in comparative jurisdictions is that extracts from newspapers and other media may not be tabled as evidence for substantiation of claims. This is buttressed by Standing Order 55, which provides as follows. The facts on which a request for statement is based may be said briefly, but extracts from newspapers and other media or quotations from speeches shall not be admissible. Consequently, and in accordance with this established parliamentary practice, the news clips from TV4 Kenya and Citizen TV News tabled by Senator Osotsi MP are inadmissible for purposes of substantiating any claim. Now, honorable senators, the second parameter, which is whether the evidence table relates to and verifies the claim that was made and for which substantiation was required. With respect to the video clip named VAD 2023-101, 8 WA00 and WhatsApp image 2023-1018 at 13:08:15, they show images of burned livestock and structures. And in my assessment, nothing in the video clips categorically states and makes reference to the allegation made by Senator Osotsi. I therefore find it difficult to admit these 2 videos as evidence for purposes of substantiation. The final document submitted by Senator Osotsi was a copy of a charge sheet dated 16th of August 2023. As required under Standing Order 1052, the evidence to be tabled by a senator for purposes of substantiation is to be tabled at the next sitting day. A senator required to substantiate an allegation is expected to table all documents for such substantiation as required under the standing orders on the day appointed for substantiation. This being the case, and noting that Senator Osotsi submitted a letter dated 19th of October 2023 and received in the office of the Speaker on 23rd of October 2023, making a request to allow the charge sheet to be admitted for substantiation, I find that the charge sheet is inadmissible. The charge sheet ought to have been tabled in the Senate on the 18th of October 2023 and thereby recorded as part of the documents or material submitted for substantiation. In any case, the charge sheet indicates that an offense was committed on the 15th of August 2023 by 2 individuals who are said to have willfully and unlawfully set fire to a dwelling house valued at Kenya shillings 1.750 million at Kemeloi location in Nandi South Sub-County in Nandi County. The charge sheet adduced as evidence does not make a connection to the allegation made by Senator Osotsi. Honorable Senators, I therefore find and rule that in respect to the challenge by Senator Samson Cherangei MP to substantiate the claim relating to clashes at the border between Nandi and Vihiga counties at a place called Serem, Senator Osotsi MP did not table any evidence or provide an explanation to substantiate this claim as required. The claim was accordingly not substantiated. In accordance with my findings, in relation to the admissibility of the documents tabled by the said senator and the failure to meet the threshold of substantiation in respect to the claims made, I now require Senator Osotsi pursuant to Standing Order number 1052 to withdraw and apologize in respect of the claims that there have been clashes in the boundary between Vihiga and Aldai at a place called Serem. I also proceed to caution, as provided for in Standing Order 152, that failure to withdraw and apologize will result in the senator being deemed to be disorderly within the meaning of Standing Order 121, and I will, at that juncture then, require the senator to withdraw. So, Senator Osotsi, you may now proceed to either withdraw that statement and apologize or allow the chair to make further orders.
Mr. Speaker, I have listened to your ruling very carefully. I provided whatever documents I provided, and I am not willing to withdraw. But because I know the event happened, and the documents I provided were the documents I have as the evidence. But the truth of the matter is that the clashes happened, and even the Kenyans who are watching me today from that region know it happened. So, Mr. Speaker, I'll be willing to withdraw from the chamber.
Order, honorable senators. I have another communication to make. What is the point of order, Senator Kathuri?
Mr. Speaker, you know Senator Sothi should wait for you to make the ruling. Yes. Because that is the one. I saw last week when Senator Sifuna also descended to get out of the chamber himself without your ruling, Mr. Speaker. This trend is not really the best practice. So the senators should wait so that you make your ruling. And then, because he is chasing himself out of the chamber, Mr. Speaker.
Order, honorable senators.
Order.
Order.
Point of order, Speaker.
What is your point of order?
Mr. Speaker, this is not a very light matter, as some want just to portray and wish it away. Mr. Speaker, a trend is emerging, and if you don't nip it in the bud, you may lose control over this House. You are constitutionally mandated to run this House and bring order. It has become a habit of a number of senators because they think the Speaker is just sending me away. What is it after all? That's why even in the last few weeks, now they've begun this exercise of saying, I can even walk away before you make a pronouncement. Mr. Speaker, the sanctions that can be passed to a senator for being grossly disorderly are enumerated and listed. And it is not just about walking out of the House or being told, come back next week on Tuesday. Mr. Speaker, can you give a ruling and guide this House on one, what happens to senators who continually show this level of defiance because they are few and they are known? Number two, Mr. Speaker, whether it is in order for a senator to look a speaker straight in the eye and say, I don't need you to even guide me on what I need to do. I know what I need to do. I find that to be gravely, first of all, it is arrogant, it is wrong, and it undermines the authority of this House. Mr. Speaker, please guide this House. Otherwise, colleague senators will begin this habit. And you will not have anything that you'll do because a culture will have been set.
Yes, Senator Wambua.
I thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would have requested Senator Cherry to substantiate when he says that trend is being set by a few senators who are known but are not going in that direction, Mr. Speaker. The direction I want to take will be, Mr. Speaker, you gave Senator Ososi two options. The option of either substantiating or apologizing. Actually, the two options. One was either apologize, withdraw and apologize, or walk out of the chamber. You know the problem is the Speaker.
Order, honorable senators. May the senator be heard in silence, please.
You know, if you listen, then you benefit. If you don't listen, if your turn to speak, then you don't benefit. The Speaker, Senator Ososi opted for the option of leaving the chamber. And the Speaker, after that, we had moved to the next order. The Speaker, on our side as leadership of the minority, we are also finding it very difficult to reconcile ourselves with a growing trend where members seated in the chamber want to take up the roles of the Speaker and direct the Speaker on how to conduct the business of this House with the Speaker. As a leadership of this side, Mr. Speaker, we take great exception to that trend. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Now, honorable senators, let us not spend more time on this particular matter. Let us not spend more time on this particular matter, Senator Mazayo, because both sides, as you speak, you're basically trying to tell the Speaker that you better run this House in this manner. Now, honorable senators, let me go straight to the case at hand, the case of Senator Osotsi. Having read the ruling, the first option given was for the senator to withdraw and apologize. And I stated that if you're unable to do that, then I will make further orders. I said it very clear. Now, of course, Senator Osotsi, having failed or refused to withdraw and apologize, it was upon the Speaker then to communicate the next course of action. Because under Standing Order 121, if you're disorderly, it does not mean automatically you have to withdraw from the chamber. Maybe I was going to caution him, because that is one of the options available under Standing Order 121. Senator Osotsi has breached Standing Order 121, not Standing Order 122. And the options available to a Speaker once a senator breaches Standing Order 121 is, one, he can give caution and caution the senator, or he can order the senator to withdraw for the remainder of the sitting. And therefore, the further orders would have been either I would have cautioned Senator Osotsi under Standing Order 121, or I would have asked him to withdraw. He chose to walk out. But for purposes of the record, Senator Osotsi, what I intended to rule, and unfortunately you decided to take the other option, I was inclined to caution you so that you proceed with today's sittings. However, having invited me to order you to withdraw, I will abide by your invitation and ask you to withdraw from the chamber for the remainder of today's sitting. Now, honorable senators, I have the following communication to make. As you may recall, during the morning sitting of the Senate held on Wednesday, 22nd November 2023, the temporary Speaker, Senator Abdul Haji MP, directed Senator Samson Cherangei MP to withdraw from the presence of the Senate for disorderly conduct pursuant to Standing Order 984. Standing Order 984 states that the Speaker shall order any senator who unnecessarily and persistently interrupts proceedings or consults loudly and disruptly to withdraw from the chamber, and Standing Order 121 shall apply to any such senator. Standing Order 121 2B provides for the consequences of creating disorder in the Senate. The standing order states as follows: the Speaker may call a senator whose conduct is disorderly to order and order the senator to withdraw from the precincts of the Senate for the remainder of that day's sitting. It is on this basis that the then temporary Speaker, Senator Abdul Haji MP, orders Senator Cherangei to withdraw from the precincts of the Senate, as Senator Cherangei was creating disorder by unnecessarily interrupting the proceedings and consulting in a disruptive manner. Honorable Senators, you will also recall that at the sitting of the Senate held on Tuesday, 28 November 2023, the Senator for Kakamega County, Senator Boni Halwale MP, rose on a point of order, calling to question the conduct of Senator Samson Cherangei MP following the withdrawal from the chamber as directed by the temporary speaker on the morning sitting of Wednesday, 22nd November 2023. In the point of order, Senator Boni MP alleged that the Senator Cherangei MP, after being directed to withdraw from the Senate, proceeded to the Parliamentary Media Center, whereupon Senator Cherangei addressed the media on various matters. Senator Boni stated as follows: "My attention was drawn to the fact that no sooner had the senator been ordered out than he went to the media center and addressed the press. I therefore would like you to guide us understanding order number 122 on gross disorderly conduct, whether the senator of Nandi County, by staying in the premises of this parliament, did or did not defy a ruling of the chairperson." It is at this point that I undertook to establish the facts and give a ruling at the next sitting. Honorable Senators, on inquiry into the matter, I have established that Senator Cherangei MP, after withdrawing from the chamber as directed by the temporary speaker on Wednesday, 22nd November 2023, proceeded to the Senate lounge where he had tea and interacted with other senators. 2, proceeded to Parliament Media Center and addressed the media. 3, took lunch at the Parliament restaurant. 4, disregarded the direction of the Chief Sergeant at Arms to withdraw from the premises of Parliament. And finally, attempted to access the Senate chamber for the afternoon sitting on Wednesday, 22nd November 2023. From the foregoing, it can be noted that Senator Samson Cherangei MP was indeed within the Parliament buildings after being directed by the Speaker to withdraw from the premises of Parliament pursuant to Standing Order 121. Honorable Senators, for the avoidance of doubt and for the benefit of all honorable senators, Section 3.1 of the Parliamentary Powers and Privileges Act, read together with Standing Order 2 of the Senate, Standing Orders, defines the premises of Parliament to include the chamber of the Senate and of the National Assembly, every part of the buildings in which the chambers are situated, the offices of Parliament, the galleries and places provided for the use and accommodation of members of Parliament, members of the public and representatives of the press, and any forecourt, yard, garden, enclosure, or open space appurtenant thereto and used as provided for the purposes of Parliament. The offices of Parliament include the places within such offices that are provided for the use of members of Parliament, members of staff, members of the public and press, committee rooms, and other meeting places provided as used for Parliament purposes. This being the case, a senator who has been called to order for disorderly conduct and subsequently directed to withdraw from the premises of Parliament, in accordance with the standing orders, must withdraw from the chamber and all other areas referred to under the Parliamentary Powers and Privileges Act and Standing Order 2 of the Senate and the National Assembly as such. As places provided for the use and accommodation of members of Parliament, members of public and representatives of the press, the dining areas and any other place provided or used for Parliament's purposes. Honorable Senators, this is not the first time that the matter of disorderly conduct in the Senate has arisen. Indeed, Senator Samson Cherangei MP has been called out to order for disorderly conduct severally and directed to withdraw from the Senate on 3 occasions, the most recent incident being on Wednesday, 22nd November 2023. I have made several directives from the Chair and issued a substantive ruling on 28 February 2023 with regard to disorder in the Senate. In the ruling, I cautioned honorable senators to observe decorum, respect to the chair, and maintain order in the Senate, and that instances of disorderly conduct will be dealt with without fear or favor, and that there will be no leniency, whether the disorder emanates from the majority or minority side of the Senate. Honorable Senators, Standing Order 122.1 highlights the instances in which a senator displays gross disorderly conduct, which includes defies a ruling or direction of the Speaker or Chairperson of the committee. The sanctions for the conduct of such senator are provided for under Standing Order 122, which states the Speaker may call a senator whose conduct is grossly disorderly to order and shall order the senator to withdraw immediately from the premises of Parliament on the first occasion for a maximum of 3 sitting days, including the sitting day of suspension, and B, on the second or subsequent occasion during the same session for a minimum of 7 sitting days and a maximum of 21 sitting days, including the day of suspension. Honorable Senators, by a letter reference number NCS/113-2023, dated the 29th of November 2023, and received in my office on Wednesday, 29th November 2023, Senator Samson Cherargei, MP, expressed regret and requested for pardon for his failure to adhere to the directions of the Speaker to withdraw from the premises of Parliament on Wednesday, 22nd November 2023. However, I find the actions of Senator Cherargei, MP, after being directed to withdraw from the chamber on Wednesday, 22nd November 2023, pursuant to Standing Order 121 2B, amounting to defying a ruling and direction of the Speaker. The Senator's action exhibited disdain for his colleagues, the Speaker, and the Senate as a whole. I therefore find that the conduct of Senator Cherargei, MP, on the stated day to be grossly disorderly. In addition, while at the Parliament Media Center, Senator Cherargei made comments which amounted to casting aspersions on the integrity of the chair, honorable senators, and the Senate in general. I find the statements made by the senator most disrespectful and contemptuous of the Senate. The statements having been made outside the formal proceedings of the Senate may not attract the withdrawal as contemplated under Standing Order 102. I, however, reprimand Senator Samson Cherargei, MP, for the said comments, and I will not hesitate in future to refer such actions to the Committee on Powers and Privileges for consideration. Honorable Senators, this being the first occasion for Samson Cherargei, MP, to be grossly disorderly under Standing Order 122 in this session, on account that the Senator expressed remorse for his actions on Wednesday, 22nd November 2023, I accept the apology and take this opportunity to caution Senator Cherargei that such behavior will not be tolerated henceforth. I will not hesitate to invoke the provisions of Standing Order 122 on Senator Cherargei, MP, in the event of gross disorderly on his part. I thank you. Next order. Now we'll move to statements pursuant to Standing Order 56-1. These are the statements by committee chairpersons. The chairperson, Standing Committee on Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries. Okay, we will move now to the Chairperson Standing Committee on Health. The first statement by the Chairperson on Agriculture, that one is deferred. Chairperson Standing Committee on Health. That one is also deferred. The Chairperson, Standing Committee on ICT. That statement is deferred.
No.
Okay.
The Vice
Proceed.
President. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I rise pursuant to Standing Order 56-1B to make a statement relating to the activities of Standing Committee on Education for the period between 1st July 2023 to 30th November 2023. Honorable Speaker, During the period under review, the committee held a total 18 sittings, during which it considered 1 legislative proposal, 9 statements, and 3 inquiries. A. Legislative proposals. Honorable Speaker, the committee undertook pre-publication scrutiny of the Digital Literacy Bill 2023, which was referred to the committee on 29th May 2023. The committee sought responses from the Ministry of Information, Communication, and Digital Economy and the Ministry of Education. The committee thereafter deliberated on the submissions, engaged the sponsor, Senator Karen Nyamu MP, who is a member of the committee, to ensure that all views are adequately captured. The committee recommended to the Speaker that the bill be published. Honorable Speaker, 2 statements from the previous reporting period are still ongoing, whereas 7 statements were sought from the committee during the current period. The committee considered the responses to the 2 statements from the previous reporting period and resolved to further engage the stakeholders. The committee is currently considering an additional 7 statements that were asked during the quarter. In consideration the statements, the committee held meetings with stakeholders and respective senators who requested for the statements. Mr. Speaker, sir, at a sitting of the committee held on 23rd November 2023, the committee met to consider written responses on 6 of the statements and found them to be unsatisfactory, and thereafter resolved to convene with the Cabinet Secretary of Ministry of Information, Communication, and the Digital Economy, and the Cabinet Secretary, National Treasury and Economic Planning on Friday, 1st December 2023. The statements are as follows. Statement by Senator Cherargei MP on plans to install device management system, DMS, as spyware on phones. Statement by Senator Samson Cherargei MP on the alleged breach of customer data at Naivas Supermarket. Statement by Senator Hamida Kibwana MP on sexual exploitations of minors online. Statement by Senator Tabitha Mutinda MP on the state of digital skills literacy in Kenya. Statement by Senator Hamida MP on the sale of Telecom Kenya to Infrastructure Corporation Africa, and statement by Senator Hamida Kibwana MP on the state of digital infrastructure in the public service. Mr. Speaker, sir, arising from deliberations with various stakeholders, the committee developed its work plan for the forthcoming reporting period to include A, inquiry into budgetary allocations and construction of data centers and digital infrastructures in the country. B, conduct a county oversight and networking engagement in Uasin Gishu, Trans Nzoia, Bungoma, and Kisumu counties. C, meeting with telecommunications industry, stakeholders, and cabinet secretary, the National Treasury and Economic Planning to deliberate on the matter of import tax imposed on SIM cards and exercise duty on airtime and telephone services to address the rising cost of calls across networks. Mr. Speaker, sir, the committee has received a response to the statement regarding the financial status and operations of the Postal Corporations of Kenya requested by Samson Cherargei MP, and is scheduled to consider the response on Friday, 1st December 2023, together with the statement regarding the delays in exchequer disbursement and reports of hacking of the IFMIS system requested by Senator Fatuma Dulo CBS MP, that was committed to both the committee and the Senate Standing Committee on Finance, Commerce, and Budget. Mr. Speaker, sir, the committee is further following up on responses to the statement regarding the operations of the Kenya National Library Services requested by Senator Jones Mwaruma MP. 10, inquiries. Honorable Speaker, the committee is currently conducting 3 inquiries on the digital assets infrastructure in Kenya, the budgetary allocations and constructions of data centers and digital infrastructure in the country. and the telecommunication infrastructure and dispute between ATC Kenya and Telecom Kenya. Mr. Speaker, sir, I wish to thank your office and that of the Clerk of the Senate for the continuous support accorded to the committee in undertaking its work. Lastly, I also wish to thank the members of the committee of their commitment, diligence, and contribution during the committee activities. For Senator Chair Alan Chesang. Thank you.
The next statement, Chair, Committee on Justice, Legal Affairs. The next one is by the Chair, Labour Committee. Okay, you are standing, okay, for the Chair, Labour. Senator Bugwa, proceed and give your statement.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 56(1)B to make a statement on the committee activities for the Standing Committee on Labour and Social Welfare for the period commencing 1st July 2023 to 30th November 2023. Mr. Speaker, sir, during the period under review, the committee held a total of 63 sittings, considered 2 bills, 6 petitions, and 64 statements. The committee also considered 2 legislative proposals. In respect of bills, Mr. Speaker, the following were considered and reports tabled. 1, the Care and Protection of Child Parents Bill 2023, Senate Bills number 29 of 2023, and the County Hall of Fame Bill, Senate Bills number 18 of 2023. The committee also considered 2 legislative proposals, namely the Labour Migration Bill 2023 and the National Employment Authority Bill 2023. The committee has considered the Employment Amendment Bill 2023 and held public participation and tabled its report in the House. Mr. Speaker, with regard to petitions, the committee considered 6 petitions during the period under review and tabled 5 reports on the petitions as follows. A, petition by Mr. James Muiru Gakonga and other residents of Lamu, Baringo, and Nairobi counties on Linda Soccer tapping into 302 billion football economy. And B, petition by Mr. Kimtai Kirui and Mr. Chepsus Arab Koech concerning alleged fraud by First Choice Recruitment and Consultancy Agents Limited. C, petition by Mr. David Bimji Atela and others on unfair terms and conditions for universal health care staff and delay in internship posting. D, petition by Mrs. Tasila Mwasimba and others concerning unlawful salary deductions of female teachers by the Kenya Women Teachers Association. And E, petition by supply chain management assistants concerning discrimination against health workers by the Ministry of Health. 7, the committee is still considering the petition concerning mismanagement of football in the country by the Football Kenya Federation and will table its report in due course. Mr. Speaker, sir, regarding statements pursuant to Standing Order 52(1), where a senator may make a statement on a matter of county-wide, inter-county, national, regional, or international concern, or a matter of general topical concern, 2 statements were referred to the committee. The committee has concluded statement 1 and is following up on the responses on the remaining one. 9, on statement pursuant to Standing Order 53(1), 65 statements were referred to the committee. The committee has concluded on 28 of these statements, while others at various stages of consideration. The status table on statement is attached to this statement. Mr. Speaker, sir, the committee conducted inquiries on 2 statements, namely the plight of Kenyan migrant workers in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and other countries in the Middle East. The committee will be tabling its report soon. The payment of one-off honorarium and pension to former councillors in the defunct local authorities. This is an ongoing matter whereby the committee is following up with the National Treasury on the payments. Mr. Speaker, sir, on foreign visits, The committee undertook an exchange visit to the Parliament of Uganda, where it had an opportunity to meet with its counterpart committees from 19th to 26 November 2023. The committee will table its report in due course. Mr. Speaker, sir, the committee held 2 report-writing retreats and petitions and bills before it and 1 stakeholder engagement on the level of preparedness of the Africa Cup of Nations Games. Mr. Speaker, sir, going forward, the committee intends to carry the following activities. 1, hold continuous engagements with the National Treasury and county governments, including the assemblies on the issue of statutory deductions, pension, and SACCO payments. And B, hold continuous engagements with the Ministry of Youth Affairs, Sports, and Arts on the sports development and management. And C, hold continuous engagements with the Ministry of Labor and Social Protection on 1, labor migration, promotion of skilled labor, and protection of unskilled labor migrants. 2, registration of persons with disabilities. And 3, social safety nets for the vulnerable in the society. And 5, the welfare of children. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wish to leave.
Thank you. Next is statement and standing order 57-1. The Senate Majority Leader. Majority Leader. Majority Leader. Senator Medu, you're out of order, Senator Medu. I can see you on intervention for a point of order. What is your point of order? Okay.
That one needs mentorship, Mr. Speaker. You can see 1 year after being in Parliament, he's still pressing buttons haphazardly. But he's a good young man, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise pursuant to Standing Order number 57-1 to present to the business of the Senate for the week commencing Tuesday, 5th of December, 2023. Mr. Speaker, sir, as honorable senators are aware, at the rise of the Senate on the 7th of December, 2023, the Senate will proceed for the long-awaited, I can add, December recess in accordance with the Senate calendar approved on the 16th of February, 2023. While we look forward to this recess, it is noteworthy that there is still a high number of business pending conclusion in the Senate. I spoke at length about this during my statement last week, Mr. Speaker, on the business before the House that I strongly felt we needed to conclude before we proceed on recess. As honorable senators will observe, at order number 16, 17, 18, and 19, and 20 in today's order paper, there are motions scheduled for debate. I appeal to the sponsors of these motions to remain in the chamber, until the business is prosecuted. At orders number 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14, 7 bills are scheduled for division of the Committee of the Whole. I request our party whips to mobilize the request and the requisite number of county delegations for divisions on the bill to be undertaken and thereafter forward to the National Assembly for consideration. This action will undoubtedly contribute to our legislative output for the second session. However, our entry on bills remains high as there are a number of 29 bills that are at the second reading stage. I urge the movers of these bills to be available in the Senate whenever the Senate Business Committee schedules them on the order paper. With respect to petitions, I commend the Standing Committee on Justice, Legal Affairs, and Human Rights, which has concluded consideration of all the 8 petitions referred to the committee. This should be emulated by all other standing committees that have petitions pending before them. That being said, there are 11 petitions that are now due for reporting by standing committees. I urge the respective standing committees to expeditiously consider these petitions and table the reports thereon. Regarding statements, there are a total of 525 statements that have been sought, out of which 282 are pending conclusion by respective standing committees. I urge the standing committees to consider the statements and use mechanism provided by the standing orders to make reports thereon. The procedure on questions has taken root as senators continue to file questions on diverse issues affecting their counties. However, it is on record that the Senate is dissatisfied with the conduct of a number of cabinet secretaries for failure to honor invitations to respond to the executive. This is a matter I undertake to address with the executive to ensure that questions by senator are addressed by cabinet secretaries. Mr. Speaker, there is no hiding on this. Remember what members agree on. We need to file an amendment to Powers and Privilege Act to provide more stringent sanctions on ministers who continue and witnesses who continue to take the authority of the Senate or Parliament as a whole without the seriousness demanded thereof. At its meeting held on Tuesday, 28th of November 2023, the SBC approved the next set of questions scheduled for order paper on Wednesday, the 6th of December 2023. The summary of the questions and cabinet secretaries to appear as follows. Question 44 to the CS for water, 46 CS for environment, 50 the CS for water, 64 to the CS for agriculture, and so on and so forth, Madam Speaker. So next week we shall have the Minister for Water, the Minister for Agriculture, and the Minister for Environment. 2 senators form that particular list. It's my hope, Mr. Speaker, that they will find the time to appear before. Otherwise, Mr. Speaker, we will do what we need to do as a House. I therefore thank you, Mr. Speaker, and lay the statement on the table of the Senate. Thank you.
So, Honorable Senators, you'll allow me to reorganize the order paper. What is it, Senator Chalge?
Mr. Speaker, understanding order 1 requesting your indulgence, I thought you would have allowed us a few minutes to react to the statements with your indulgence at your director.
I'm short of those minutes today.
Maybe 10 minutes, a few of us. Just comments.
Maybe I limit to 3 minutes. Just a comment does not need a lot of stories. Just 3 minutes, I'll give 4 senators.
Okay. Can I start with your indulgence?
Of course, you have the mic. You have
Okay.
Thank
you, Mr. Speaker, sir. And you know I'm always an altar boy. So, Mr. Speaker, mine is just on the follow-up of the Committee of Labor and Social Welfare. Mr. Speaker, allow me to thank the Labor and Social Welfare Committee. They are doing a tremendous job, Mr. Speaker. One is on the issue of follow-up of the petition by Kimutai Kirui and Chepses Arab Koech. Mr. Speaker, in the report that was adopted by this House, the committee had ruled that within 1 month, the refund that had been committed by the First Choice Recruitment Agency in Eldoret, the refund to the victim should have been done within 1 month. Mr. Speaker, as we talk, the same agency has not refunded to the victims that were alleged of the fraud that was committed in Eldoret, Mr. Speaker, sir. Would I be in order that the Committee of Labor and Social Welfare be directed, Mr. Speaker, next week, courtesy of you and in your indulgence, understanding, to report back and table a report to show how many victims have been refunded by First Choice Consultants Limited, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, the sad reality is that most of these are young people who have just finished Form 4. Mr. Speaker, as we talk, there are parents who have died because of the stress of this fraud. Mr. Speaker, as we talk, there are young people who have stress, mental disorder. There are many banks, their properties are being auctioned because they took money to give to this agency in Eldoret, Mr. Speaker, with the hope of traveling for last year's World Cup, Mr. Speaker. Can I request through your office for the Committee of Labor and Social Welfare to bring back a report on how many, Mr. Speaker, victims have been refunded? And finally, Mr. Speaker, the people who have been accused, the chief perpetrator, the directors of First Choice Limited, as we talk, they are working scot-free and saying to the people in Eldoret, so you took us to the Senate. What happens? Where will you take us, Mr. Speaker? Can the committee also table on the status of the investigations, Mr. Speaker? Finally, Mr. Speaker, on the elections, because I know I have 30 seconds, on the elections by FKF for next year, Mr. Speaker, I want to ask the Committee of Labor to fast-track on the issue of Federation of Kenya football, on the issue of elections of other federations in this country, so that, Mr. Speaker, we can ensure we protect the issue of sports, Mr. Speaker. I would request that Labor and Social Welfare meet all stakeholders as they plan and assure this country that in February next year, Mr. Speaker, the Federation of Kenya football must do their elections, Mr. Speaker, just like any other federation, so that we fail being taken advantage. And I know Senator Aaron Cheruyot Nowadays he's playing, but I don't know whether he's playing like Maguire, Mr. Speaker. You know, Maguire has an habit of scoring on his own goal. So Senator Cheruyat, although he's having his tournament this weekend, I don't know whether he's Maguire or the one Canacho. Who's
Senator Oroba Gloria.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to support Senator Karen Nyamu's statement on regulating this alcohol consumption and nightclubs and club activities, Mr. Speaker. However, as I support this statement, I think I want to remind the parents, Mr. Speaker. You know, I'm a parent of a 16-year-old son. So I want to remind the parents that we are legislators and there's only so much we can control. We can put regulations on what time the bars open and they close. But as a parent, you cannot outsource that responsibility of inculcating the culture or characters of your child, Mr. Speaker. So therefore, while we are regulating these clubs and whatever, Mr. Speaker, I urge the parents to spend some time with their teenagers, to spend some time even with their young adults, so that they can be able to you know, advise them and inform them of things, worldly things, Mr. Speaker, because as much as we are going to put rules and regulations, in the end, it comes down to the choice. This trend of aluta, of partying, Mr. Speaker, from Friday until Tuesday, whether we put rules and regulation, the teenagers can also buy alcohol on Friday. That is enough for them to party all the way till Monday, whether we close the nightclubs or not. So it is an issue of outsourcing parenting, Mr. Speaker. So therefore, parents, I urge you to spend time with your children and talk to them so that they don't end up being the kings and queens of this aluta culture, Mr. Speaker. And for the leaders who are elected, I know that in Dagoretti North, we have, for instance, Robert Alai, who was elected on the basis of shutting down bars. We also need to hear their voices on this trend of aluta. But what I want to say as I support this statement is that it is upon us parents to be able to guide our children. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Senator Kisang William.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I also rise to support the statement for FKF to have elections, and they are scheduled for next year, February. Honorable Speaker, this particular federation has the tendency, especially those who are office bearers currently, Honorable Speaker, they go to court to block any attempts for elections to take place, because I think there is a lot of corruption there. There are cartels there, Honorable Speaker. We need to ensure that these elections take place, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, it's not even FKF alone. Even Athletics Kenya have similar issues. And you know, these are people who have been in office forever and they don't want to hand over the mantle to their youth, especially those who are still active in the sports, both football and athletics, Honorable Speaker. This is a disease. It's a cancer that has bedeviled our country, Honorable Speaker. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Senator Chiruyo Talun.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to, first of all, appreciate the two committees that have tabled before the Senate the reports of their activities. That is the Committee on Labor and the Committee on ICT. While at it, Mr. Speaker, remind the chairperson of Health, and I don't know which other one, that was slated to make their reports today, but unfortunately...
Justice.
Yeah, Health and Justice and Legal Affairs, Mr. Speaker, that they need to take the work of this House a bit more seriously. Mr. Speaker, it cannot be that if the chairperson is absent, the vice is absent, all the other 7 members are absent, unless that committee doesn't take the work of this House seriously. Because I have sat down the last 3 days, and I take a lot of time paying keen attention, Mr. Speaker, to each committee report on the progress. Because this House, Mr. Speaker, is on the brink of history. Yesterday, I was having lunch with colleagues from the National Assembly, where we were a number of senators, and they celebrated us as a House and said, I like how Senate works. You guys were the first to speak on this issue, for example, of edible oils. You've gone on and carried very serious investigations about it. You are equally handling the issue of Shakahola. You have even done a report already and listed so many things which the Senate is seriously pursuing. In fact, Mr. Speaker, I hold the view that if it was not for the fact that this House is heavily underfunded, and each time when we appear before our colleagues in the National Assembly Budget and Finance Committee, they don't seem to appreciate the amount and the gravity of work that the Senate is handling, Mr. Speaker, we would be doing far more, much more than many of these so-called investigative agencies. That's why yesterday, Mr. Speaker, when I was speaking on the report of Shakahola, I spoke at length and said I wish colleague senators could appreciate the powers that we have under Article 94.5 of the Constitution of Kenya, and to know that as a body, we can investigate and give very serious recommendation and sanctions to people who are involved in corruption, people who are underperforming in their responsibilities, people who are mismanaging public resources, and so many other societal ills that this House oversights, including governors and so on and so forth, Mr. Speaker. Therefore, when committees present their work to their House, it is something that we must appreciate and thank them for the work that they are doing. I appreciate the work of the ICT committee. There are many things, though, Mr. Speaker, that I'd wish I had listened to in that particular report, because I know statements that I have seen raised by our colleagues and many things that we need to appreciate. I want to urge our colleagues in the various committees, because we are the oversight wing of the government of Kenya, it is our duty to keep on track all promises made by this administration. And it is important that when committees report, to keep track and keep the country abreast with the things that are happening. I wanted to hear, for example, the committee on ICT on how many kilometers of the promised 100,000 kilometers, you know, Mr. Speaker, of fiber optic across the country. It would be good just to be appraised. Are the officers even in sync? Do they know what is happening? That is our duty, because that is what you do as oversight. And this is not an issue of whichever side of the House that you belong to, because oversight is with the Senate. It is not to any particular side of the House, Mr. Speaker. The same for the Labour Committee on the reports that they have progressed and given to the House. I know for a fact, Mr. Speaker, that we made a promise. Unfortunately, I'm out of time, but if you could graciously, just 2 minutes, Mr. Speaker, I will conclude in 2 minutes.
Just give him 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just wanted to point out to the Labour Committee that one of the key promises that this administration promised the people of Kenya is on the issue of labor bilaterals with other countries. It will be important to know how many have been fulfilled, the challenges that we are having, why that program hasn't taken off, because remember, Mr. Speaker, that FDI, foreign direct investment, and remittance by fellow countrymen that are working out of the country, recently overtook even our horticultural products in terms of growth of our GDP. Therefore, this is a program that we need to handle with a lot of seriousness. It will be important for this committee to complete on the work that had been begun by the previous Labour Committee on what is happening in Saudi Arabia, many of our kids, and the challenges that they're having. But over and above it, to know that recently, last month when the president was in Saudi Arabia, he signed on an expanded bilateral agreement that expands the scope of workers of Kenya that go to Saudi Arabia to be beyond domestic workers only. That now we have people that can go and do professional jobs in those particular countries. We have the same for Germany and UAE. That is the level of the reporting that we want to hear from our committees and know what is happening with these ministries. Why the delay? Is it anything to do with legislative work that we need to do? Though I know that that cannot be the case, Mr. Speaker, because we have done our bit and hold the public officers to account so that our countries can benefit. But I celebrate the work that has been done by our committees. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Majority Leader. I hope that has gotten to the chairs. You know that is the language we speak in liaison committee. So we didn't do a lot in liaison to make sure also enough reports are brought before this House. I understand 4 members, and only maybe even how many I've given, but let me give the last 2. Senator Mugatana Danson, and the last one be Senator Sige Kagei Christo.
Mr. Speaker, I wanted to rise in support of the statement by the Senator for Turkana, Senator Lomenem,
James Lomenem. But before I say so, Mr. Speaker, I just wanted to take a minute of my time to celebrate, because we are going into Christmas, some of the very good contributions we've had on the floor of this House from some of our colleagues, Majority Leader, Mr. Speaker, the Government Whip, Mr. Speaker, Esther Ekenyuri, Mr. Speaker, and VIP herself. Mr. Speaker, we must say what is good is good. And Mr. Speaker, I have taken my time to sit here and listen to some of the contributions on this House. May God keep them having...
Senator Mgatana, you know the members here are not many. Could have recognized all of them.
I recognize all of them, Mr. Speaker. I recognize all of them. Not forgetting all of them, Madam Speaker, Mr. Speaker. But I want to specifically mention those because I have enjoyed sitting here through listening to their contributions, and may God help them to continue in that spirit. Mr. Speaker, the issue of curfew really affects business so badly, Mr. Speaker. And unfortunately, we of the counties that are on the northern side and even, the drier part of the nation, we have been subject to these curfews which are given by the Minister for Interior and National Coordination. Generally, Mr. Speaker, the curfews do serve a purpose at some point. But, Mr. Speaker, the problem that Senator Lomenem is raising, and I want to support him, and I want the Committee of Security to look into it, is that there is never a time limitation given to these curfews. And what happens is they are forgotten. It's like the minister gives a curfew, and then the time continues, and then nobody remembers that a certain area has curfew. Mr. Speaker, when you look at curfews that have affected Tana River, Mr. Speaker, you are even told, like in Lamu, that you should not go out and fish. Mr. Speaker, fishing is done at night. Most of the productive fishing is done at night. When ministers give orders of curfews, Mr. Speaker,
is Senator Mgatana's time over? Give him 1 minute to conclude.
Mr. Speaker, I was on this point that when the minister gives these orders, like against fishing, against movement of animals, they affect business very badly. So I'm urging the minister, even from the floor of this House, to please review all the curfew orders that they have given so that they don't forget that these orders actually affect business, affect the livelihoods of people, and some people just depend on that particular business to survive. Areas of fishing, areas of animal movement, please, Mr. Speaker, I urge the minister to look at them. Even before the statement goes to the committee, he should look and review. People suffer when these orders are given without a time frame. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Senator Kegei Christo.
Thank you very much, Chair. I wanted to get clarification as I begin on a point of order that was raised by Senator Kinyua on the statement of the erroneous marks being given by KCPE through the portals. Chair, I wish that the Chair would also help me, because I raised a statement of the same nature, the exact same nature yesterday, and I would like your direction as to what will happen, as another couple of statements of the same have been raised here today. Second, Chair, I wanted to just inform Senator Cherargei, who made a couple of comments directed to the Labour Committee, which I sit in. Number one, the Labour Committee has been working very hard. Very, very hot topics have been brought into our committee, including the Wasingishu issue, as well as the FKF football. Both are being dealt with the most serious in its nature, Chair, and I want to just reassure the senator that we gave direction that within 90 days of the report that we did hand in already on the Wasingishu matter, that the petitioners will get information as to how many people have been paid, how many people are still outstanding to be paid. That is already in the works. 2, FKF, we just had a meeting with them this morning, Chair, with the petitioner and his group, as well as FKF president and his group. And we are definitely on the way to resolving the matter, so let him rest assured that the Labour Committee is working, and I say that on behalf of the Chair. Lastly, I rise to support the statement made by Senator Nyamu. Mr. Speaker, it's a really big issue of this partying and drinking and clubbing from dawn till dawn. Mr. Speaker, this is a place where predators make prey to young people. They, of course, are vulnerable young people with sometimes asinine behavior. Well, let's admit it. However, it's not a grounds for these institutions and these places, clubs, and the like, which hold these parties from dusk to dusk, dawn to dawn, to take advantage of these young people. Mr. Speaker, we know that in these establishments, we see young people being drugged, we see young people being taken advantage of, we see young people even being groomed. That is something that has not been discussed on the floor of the House, but it's extremely important for Kenyans to take seriously. Young people are prey in these types of establishments, and I thank Senator Nyamu for bringing that statement. And I want Kenyans to know that Senator Karen Nyamu amesema futa aluta. That is basically something that needs to be taken very seriously, and I support the senator in her efforts.
Thank you. Senator Christo, you asked some direction from the chair. If your statement was under 53.1, standing under 53.1, then you get your response, of course, from the relevant committee. The statement under 52.1 is like a personal statement. So I think you should not be worried. Your statement will still be replying to. Okay?
Thank you very much, Chair, for the guidance. However, there was a second statement under 53.1 with regards to the KCPE results and their erroneous nature.
That is what I'm saying, that will be replying to by the relevant committee in education. You just wait and they'll be able to settle your problem out. Next, honorable senators, I want to reorganize our business today, this afternoon. Business appearing as order number 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. These ones will be handled in the next sitting. They'll be defined. So we go to order number 15, clerk.
Order number 15, the T Amendment Bill, Senate Bills number 1 of 2023, resumption of debate. Second reading.
This motion was moved and seconded. And now I want to propose the question that the T-Bill, Amendment Bill, Senate Bills number 1 of 2023, be now read a second time. So, can see Senator Chalgay, you're on the top of the list.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. From the onset, I want to support this T amendment, Mr. Speaker. This is a very important amendment of the T Bill 2023. Mr. Speaker, you remember in 2020, after Christmas, we convened for special sitting, and it did pass T Act in 2020. So, Speaker, I think there is always great improvement to the tea sector, Mr. Speaker. Where I come from, we largely depend on tea. As we talk, almost the entire of Nandi, as we talk, Mr. Speaker, sir, is largely tea, Mr. Speaker, tea. And coincidentally, the tea drinkers, who include Senator Boni Khalwale, are our neighbors. So God knew that we would plant tea, and get a good market in our neighbors who normally take tea, Mr. Speaker, after every meal. I wish and pray in my opening remarks, we should be like Brazilians, Mr. Speaker. I had courtesy of this house when I was the chairman of JLAC in the other life. I did lead my delegation of Governor Senator James Orengo, Governor Senator Mutula Kilonzo Jr., former Senator of Kisumu, Fred Outa. There were a number of us. We did visit, Mr. Speaker, and a team of defense and foreign relations then. And we learned one thing in Brazil, Mr. Speaker. Apart from the other beautiful things in Brazil, apart from the wonderful weather, good food, Mr. Speaker, wonderful people, of course. I don't want to go into details because I might be called out of order. We learn, Mr. Speaker, I don't know why, for the first time, Senator Crystal Asike is shouting across the aisle. Mr. Speaker, we learn one ingredient with the Brazilians, or consulting across the aisle. Mr. Speaker, we learn one of the ingredient thing with Brazilians. Brazilians, Mr. Speaker, do their own thing, Mr. Speaker, with one heart. But out of curiosity, in the many meetings, Mr. Speaker, because we had gone to investigate the issue of Brumadinho collapse in state of Minas Gerais, in one of the states in Brazil, and even went to other states like Rio de Janeiro, among other states, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, you are smiling shyly. I don't know whether you have been in Brazil and you know those places. So we visited, Mr. Speaker, a number of places, and we learned one of the things, Mr. Speaker, that in their meetings there is no water like this. Their meetings is only coffee. I want to propose in this country, is there a way when we go to our meetings, our engagements, a sufuria, not a sufuria, a flask of tea? And I know, Mr. Speaker, after this, I might, Mr. Speaker, after this, because every meeting we need to go, including our committees, there should be a way of having a cup of tea, a flask of tea, a biriga of tea, Mr. Speaker, in every meeting, Mr. Speaker. And I know, after saying this, I'll be very popular in Western Kenya. And I know the people will read my popularity, Senator Boni Khalwale, Mr. Speaker. Because at least them, after every, they must take tea. After every, they give tea. After eating, Mr. Speaker, and many others, Mr. Speaker. So I think in our culture, we should encourage tea taking. And I heard, Mr. Speaker, Senator, we have given us our beautiful Senator, Senator Gloria Oruoba, one of the fiery senators, said something about aluta. Mr. Speaker, the only way to finish drinking of alcohol in this country is to encourage people to take tea. If there is an option of drinking, let them drink tea. And that's the only way we can fight aluta, which is common in this city and other cities, where young people go to clubs from Friday and come out on Monday morning, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, the only way to finish aluta in the city, I know there was a statement by Senator Nyamu, was talking about aluta, where young people from tomorrow disappear in quads up to Monday. They should be encouraged to take tea. That is the gospel we should be preaching. If we take more tea as a country, we don't need to depend on other exports. Because I know the biggest danger that has become a serious challenge, Mr. Speaker, is, and I want even Senator Asike, is an artist, is a musician, and the other day, Mr. Speaker, a number of us attended a launch somewhere along Gong Road. I don't want to mention the place. And me, Mr. Speaker, I was disappointed there was no tea. Other things were there, and Mr. Speaker, I know I should have tagged you along, because maybe you would have guided how we could proceed. But to my unfortunate, I would have expected Senator Crystal Asike and the organizers, Mr. Speaker, with a lot of indulgence, to at least ensure there is tea, as among other drinks, Mr. Speaker. But I ended up taking water the whole evening. Mr. Speaker, I know I would have strained Nairobi Water and Sanitation Company, because I was taking a lot of water, Mr. Speaker, and therefore it was not very, but I hope next time. So artists, like, we need to encourage people to take tea. That is my gospel, Mr. Speaker. Even before you take something else, can you take tea? That is the secret I ran with Brazilians. That is their own market of only taking coffee. is so huge and humongous that they don't need to do other exports, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, under this Tea Amendment Bill of 2023, I want to support Senator Sigei. I know, Mr. Speaker, that Nandi was Ngishu, not Nandi, Bomet and Kericho, Mr. Speaker, and Nandi produced, this is called a Tea Amendment Bill 2023, produced, and I want members to listen to this. Let me give you statistics, Mr. Speaker. Nandi, Kericho, and Bomet produce 46% of the tea in this country. Why? Because we still have huge tracts of land. We still have many opportunities, Mr. Speaker. And in fact, Mr. Speaker, if you go to Kiambu and other counties, because of population intensity, even in Kisii, Nyamira, where they are planting tea, Mr. Speaker, because of the land pressure, it's only Nandi, Bomet, and Kericho who have, Mr. Speaker, 46% of the production of tea in the country, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, and it is 2% of the GDP of the country, gross domestic product, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, that is why some of us have been pushing, Mr. Speaker, for complete construction of Karenga airstrip in Kericho so that they can be able to directly fly their tea outside the country, Mr. Speaker. And that is why we have been insisting that Karenga airstrip must be completed so that people can export that. Unfortunately, as we talk, Karenga airstrip as at now, it's already flooded because it's yet to be completed and does not allow our farmers of tea from Kericho, from Nandi and Bomet to export direct. For us, Nandi, Eldoret International Airport is a bit near, we can export directly. But for Bomet and Kericho, at least Karenga airstrip would be a good place where they can be able to export those tea. But it is incomplete, it's flooded. Nowadays, Mr. Speaker, on social media, people call it Karenga International, Lake International Airstrip. It is a misnomer that is being used, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to say we need also to diversify the imports of tea, like Pakistan, Mr. Speaker. Pakistan is the biggest importer of tea in Kenya. What should we do? We need to diversify. When Hamas and Palestine are having a problem, what is the way forward? We are Iran, other countries like the Kenyan tea. Mr. Speaker, if you have traveled across the world, you can always know that the Kenyan tea is the best because it has unique taste, because of good climatic conditions, good soil conditions, Mr. Speaker, and I think it is very important. Mr. Speaker, on the issue of, because I wanted just to raise on a few issues, Mr. Speaker, I'm happy that counties, I remember the county of Bomet, led by my brother governor, Professor Hilary Parchok, at some point went even to travel to Iran and wanted to do direct sales of tea. I remember it was in the previous session, Mr. Speaker. Professor Parchok and county government of Bomet did try to sell their tea direct sales to Iran. But because of many obstacles and cartels, Mr. Speaker, in this town and in the ministry, and other cartels, I'm told the people call cartels, the Bomet County government could not do direct sales on behalf of the farmers. I'm happy this amendment is talking about direct sales. And you just need to register, Mr. Speaker. Even on the sales of tea proceeds, Mr. Speaker. So we are going to do either sell by auction or by direct sales, Mr. Speaker. And if whichever either is the highest, then the farmers or the factories, tea factories can go with it, Mr. Speaker. So this is a blessing to counties like Bomet who had started initiative. I think I had Meru, although I'm not sure, they wanted to do direct sales also. Kericho, the same thing. Of course, in Nandi will do. If this direct sales is encouraged, Mr. Speaker, the county governments of these regions, since 46% of tea products come from these Bomet, Kericho, and Nandi, we will be very keen, Mr. Speaker, to ensure. So this, Mr. Speaker, on the direct sales of tea, we support this amendment, Mr. Speaker, because it will assist farmers. Because even Clause 36B says the proceeds from the sale of tea, whether through auction or through direct sale, shall be deposited in a direct settlement system, Mr. Speaker. And, Mr. Speaker, these are tea proceeds that going into the future, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, and tea growers, I'm happy. There is one of the, you know, tea to us is everything. Where I come from, especially Nandi sub-county, cross majorly tea, it has many multinationals and private outgrowers. I think there is one, I'm forgetting, led by one Mr. Kosgei, that they have even, I think, 1 or 2 factories, one in Kaptumo and one in around Cheptabach within Nandils. And in fact, the president, when he was the deputy president, went and opened their building in Nandils town. Mr. Speaker, many people in that area depend on tea. When you go to Aldai also, almost virtually the entire of Aldai is tea growing area, Mr. Speaker, sir. When you go to Masop, where I neighbor, even Chisumei, my own constituency, cross tea. Even Mgwen, where they have established a new factory. Even in Sangalo, they have private investors have come, they have established Bogovale tea factory. When you go to Tinret, also a number of tea factories, even Nandils. So, Mr. Speaker, virtually us in Nandi, we grow tea almost everywhere. And therefore, tea is life in where I come from, Mr. Speaker. It is a sustainability of livelihoods, and I'm happy. And I want to thank the President, Dr. William Ruto, because under the fertilizer subsidy program, at least all farmers, maize, tea, sugarcane, coffee, and any other farmers will get subsidized fertilizer at 2,500 across not only Nandi, but across the region, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, I want to thank President because the genius of subsidizing production over consumption will assist us in elevating the cost of living in this country, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, on the issue of to protect on the mismanagement, I agree with the tea growers, Mr. Speaker. There are smallholder farmers that need protection. You know, there are big farmers, of course, a number of factories, Mr. Speaker, but there is always a sad underlying with the issue of tea. Especially, Mr. Speaker, you saw the expose by BBC where sexual exploitation was rampant. And you know, it was hue and cry when BBC did an expose. I hope with time, Mr. Speaker, this, and I want to challenge senators who are here, especially in Labour Committee, to cease, and Senator Crystal, Senator Mbogo was here, who are members of Labour, please follow up on the expose of sexual exploitation at tea farms. And it was well elaborated, Mr. Speaker. It was a sad, no one has given us way forward on whether perpetrators of sexual exploitation in tea farms have been arrested. Up to today after that expose, Mr. Speaker. It's sad reality. Because even as we fight the issue of HIV and AIDS across the country, and even we talk state, we must protect women and young girls who have been taking advantage, and even young boys and men, Mr. Speaker. I'm told even men, we are not safe, and even young boys are not safe. It is a societal issue, Mr. Speaker, that we need to speak about it. And I think the Labour Committee kindly pick up and follow up on the issue of exploitation, of sexual exploitation in tea farms, especially after that expose. And multinational companies must take their internal mechanisms to protect also their laborers and workers, Mr. Speaker. Number 2, this region of Nandi, Bomet, Kericho, there is a soft underbelly of land historical injustices. And unfortunately, most of the tea farms owned by multinationals have allegations of having most of their lands that were forcibly taken from our forefathers. And therefore, when you go to some areas like Kapchanga, areas like Nandi Hills, Cherondo, Kapchorba Ward, a number of areas like here, Chepkunyuk, Kapchuria, among other areas in Nandil sub-county and Nandil's constituency, Mr. Speaker, you find people who are living in dilapidated conditions on the hills because the prime land, the multinationals took it and planted tea. Mr. Speaker, if the issue of land historical injustice in multinational companies is addressed, we must ensure that as we address, we don't also give that, we make sure a way of sustaining that land. What I'm proposing is not that the land be taken away and be subdivided to build houses. That land can be reverted to the community. Let the community continue taking care of the tea. Then they can still sustain themselves So the issue of land historical injustice in Nandi and, Mr. Speaker, on the tea farms, even in Kericho. I was there when we went to listen to a petition in the last session. Even in Bomet, I have similar challenges of land historical injustices. We must sit and agree. Mr. Speaker, you saw the other day, and I think it came to the floor of the House, and you were presiding that day, when we talk about mechanization of tea farms. I wish, and I want to call Senator, the sponsor of the bill, to put something on amendment during third reading, because we need to agree how far can we mechanize tea farms. The more we continue mechanizing tea farms, Mr. Speaker, we continue losing labor for the young people, Mr. Speaker. As we talk, there are young people after an incident last year, Brook in Kericho. Most young people were taken to court, they were arrested after incident of burning houses and what have you, Mr. Speaker. Is that the solution to such? We need to agree, Mr. Speaker, should we mechanize 40% and 60% to normal labor? Should we mechanize 20% and 80% to labor so that we balance? Where will these young people go if they cannot go and pluck tea in Nandi, Kericho, and Bomet? And it is unfortunate that the multinationals have taken a hard stand, Mr. Speaker. Many young people around Brook area, in Inamoy, here in Kericho, Mr. Speaker, unfortunately are suffering the consequences of what they didn't know. I know what happened might not be condoned because it is not what we expect. But can we agree, and I want Labour to take the lead, that's what the majority leader was saying here. Let Labour give us pragmatic. Go to these tea farms and ask them, where is the International Labour Organization charter that says, Mr. Speaker, 40% to mechanize, 60% to our young people, so that we can address, Mr. Speaker. And I hope the multinationals that are listening from me who have moved to court to be complainants in most of the young people that were arrested in Kericho, so they should at least, for the benefit and unity of the community, should withdraw those cases so that we can move together at one people, one nation. Finally, on the issue of tea levy, it is important, I agree, let us have tea levy. Mr. Speaker, I agree, it will allow price stabilization because, Mr. Speaker, during bonus, farmers tell me in my sub-counties in Nandi, why is Meru getting higher bonuses than Nandi? Why is Mount Kenya getting more bonuses than Kericho or Bomet? So, Mr. Speaker, I'm happy that this tea levy will be a stabilizing fund. Mr. Speaker, will allow stabilization of prices. Mr. Speaker, another issue on this tea levy is Tea Research Foundation. This will allow extension. Mr. Speaker, we are seeing introduction of purple tea. We hope this purple tea will gain market. And when we do research, which is a good tea to grow? The normal tea, green tea, we have now purple tea. Mr. Speaker, is it good? Is it valuable? Does it fetch better prices? These are what we want tea levy fund to do more research, give extension services, ensure that we plant tea that is commensurate with the soil type, Mr. Speaker. Another, Mr. Speaker, finally, is on infrastructural development. You know, Mr. Speaker, when I speak about tea, I get emotional because it is the livelihood of my people, Mr. Speaker. I feel I am now in my real element, Mr. Speaker. And finally, on the infrastructure, Mr. Speaker, and I want to say this in Nandi, and I've said in Nandi, and I've told County Assembly of Nandi, and I want other counties. This cess money that is given for infrastructure, Mr. Speaker, this cess money, why don't they form local communities, Mr. Speaker, and give the cess money to remain with the tea factories, with the local community to maintain roads? Mr. Speaker, roads in Nandi, where tea is grown, is in pathetic condition. Because that money of cess has been given to county government, they go and mislead or do other things, like even buying other things. Mr. Speaker, I pray that you had me 1 minute so that I finish only on the cess, just a minute. Just 30 seconds, Mr. Speaker, so that I finish that one. On the issue of cess, Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, on the issue of cess, I noticed the change. On the issue of cess, Mr. Speaker, is, Madam Speaker, is we should give it to communities and factories so that they can maintain roads.
Okay, finish it.
Okay. Can I have the mic? I know the weekend is nearer. No, Mr. Speaker, that the cess money be given to factories and form local communities that will be in charge of roads so that it is easy to maintain those roads, Mr. Speaker. What we are seeing in Nandi is very unfortunate, Mr. Speaker. We want the money to remain with tea factories and local communities around those tea factories so that they maintain our roads. With those many remarks, Mr. Speaker, I'll propose to bring a few amendments at third reading. Thank you for the opportunity, and I support this Tea Amendment Bill 2020. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Senator Mungatana.
Madam Speaker, nataka kuchukua nafasi hii kwanza kumpongeza leader of majority ambaye ndio alileta mswada huu. Madam Speaker, sisi tulilelewa Mombasa, na Mombasa ndio kuna hiyo tea auction. Madam Speaker, tulisoma university, tukamaliza na tukaanza kufanya kazi Mombasa. Nilifungua ofisi yangu ya wakili Mombasa. Na kati ya wale watu ambao kila wakili pale Mombasa alitarajia kufanya kazi na wao, ama alitarajia kuwa mteja wao, ni wale ambao walikuwa wanafanya kazi ya tea auction. Wale walikuwa ni matajiri, Mama Speaker, wale walikuwa wanaishi vizuri, Mama Speaker, wale walikuwa na majumba ya eneo la kifahari miaka ile tulipokuwa watoto yaitwa Nyali, walikuwa ni watu wanaofanya kazi katika tea auction. Kwa hivyo Mama Speaker, kuja kusikia kwamba wale wanaokuza majani ya chai, wale wanaofanya kazi haswa kutoa haya majani, ni watu wanaishi na uchochole na umaskini, Madam Speaker, ni jambo la kusikitisha sana. Na mimi ninafurahi kitu kimoja, ya kwamba serikali hii imeamua ya kwamba hatutafanya mabadiliko ambayo ni ya kijuujuu. Mabadiliko ambayo yanaitwa kizungu cosmetic changes. Hatutafanya hayo, manake hayo hayatosaidia mkulima wa kahawa, hayatosaidia mkulima wa mahindi, hayatosaidia mkulima wa majani chai. Mama Speaker, mkulima wa majani chai anataka kupata haki yake, na ndio maana hii sheria imeletwa hapa. Na tumeambiwa wakati hii sheria, mswada huu ulipokuwa unaletwa, ya kwamba kuna wakati ambao ulipelekwa mbele katika hii Senate na ukapitishwa upande ule wa National Assembly, lakini sasa kuna makosa ambayo yalikuwako ndani ya ile sheria ambayo ilipitishwa, na ndio maana umeletwa kwa mara ya pili kupigwa msasa. Na sababu ya hii sheria kupigwa msasa kwa mara ya pili ni kwamba tunataka yule mkulima wa kawaida apate haki yake. Na serikali hii, Madam Speaker, haitaki kufanya ile cosmetic change. Manake cosmetic change ni nini? Madam Speaker, tulikuwa tunakaa tunasikia rais katika marais waliopita anasema wakulima wa kahawa deni lenu bilioni 2 tunalipa, alafu makofi alafu mwaka ujao Madam Speaker tunarudi pale pale. Wakulima majani ya chai deni lenu la bilioni 1 serikali hii italipa, alafu makofi majani chai mwaka ujao uchochole umaskini unarudi tena. Serikali hii, Madam Speaker, imeamua ya kwamba tukiwa tunataka kufanya mabadiliko, kwanza tunaangalia sheria ile iliyoko. Ile sheria tukiigeuza, tukiipendua, tukiipiga msasa, itamsaidiaje yule mkulima wa kawaida kule nyumbani? Na ndio maana nimesimama kabisa, Bwana Speaker, kusema kwa sauti moja kwamba hii sheria tuipitishe kama bunge la Senate, na ni sheria ambayo imepigwa msasa. Tunaomba maseneta wote ambao wanaizungumzia hii sheria tuipige msasa sawa sawa, na ninafurahi Mheshimiwa Cherargei amesema katika kusoma wakati wa mara 3 ataleta mabadiliko mengine, na tunataka seneta wengine pia waangalie, haswa wale maseneta ambao wanatoka sehemu ambao wanakuza majani chai, waisome hii sheria, tuipige msasa, tujaribu kuweka vipengele ambavyo vitasaidia mwananchi wa kawaida. Na mwananchi wa kawaida wanaonisikiza sahihi, tunawaomba wajue ya kwamba ukweli wa mambo, kuna siasa duni na siasa ya ukweli. Siasa ya ukweli ni kama hii kazi tunayofanya hapa. Siasa duni ni ile ya makofi na kupigiwa kelele na kubebwa juu juu. Hile haibadilishi kitu. Mtu akija akikwambia majani yako ya chai tunalipa deni lako, alafu mwaka kesho unarudi kwa deni, haja kusaidia. Mtu akikwambia sheria tunaibadilisha ili uweze kuuza majani yako ya chai kwa bei ambayo inakufaa wewe, ili uweze kupata manufaa katika ukulima wako, huyo mtu ndio anafanya siasa ya ukweli. Na sisi katika serikali hii, Madam Speaker, hatutarudi kufanya siasa ya uongo kwa wananchi, hata kama ni ngumu. Ndio maana saa ingine unaona tunapigwa, tunatandikwa kwa mitandao, watu wa upinzani wanasimama wanasema hii serikali ni mbaya, lakini ni sawa. Wacha waseme, sisi tunafuata mipangilio, kwa sababu kugeuza hali ya mwananchi wa kawaida lazima kuna vipengele vya sheria ambavyo lazima tuvigeuze, ndio yule mwananchi wa kawaida apate ile haki yake. Kwa hivyo tukiwa hapa katika ile bunge la Senate, Mama Speaker, tunasema ya kwamba hii sheria, hivi vipengele ambavyo vimewekwa, hasa ile kitu inaitwa direct sales. Tumeambiwa hapa ya kwamba kulikuwa gavana ambaye alijaribu kwenda kuuza na hakuweza kuuza, lakini seneta alisahau kusema ya kwamba sheria ambayo ilikuwapo wakati huo na sheria ambayo lazima tuigeuze ni kwamba haikubali kuuza direct sales. Sasa tunaleta sheria hii ambayo inasema on average at least for the next 3 months, yani miezi mitatu ambayo imepita, ile bei ikiwa iko juu kidogo, hii ya direct sales iko juu, basi unakubaliwa kuuza. Na sisi tutafurahia sana kuona hii inaleta faida kwa wananchi wa Kenya. Mama Speaker, kitu kingine ambacho tungependa sana kieleweke ni kwamba majani chai ya Kenya yanachukuliwa kuwa ya thamani kubwa sana duniani. Wakati wanatengeza majani chai mengi na aina fulani ya ladha ya chai, wanatumia majani ya chai ya Kenya, ndio wakageuza zile ladha zikawa nzuri na wakauza. Lakini wanapofanya hivyo, Mama Speaker, Wakenya wakulima ambao wamefanya hiyo kazi hawapati hiyo faida. Unasikia wazungu ambao wameweka majina yao pale ndio wanapata ile faida ya pesa, na hawakulima. Ukienda sahihi uzunguni utasikia kuna English tea. Lakini Madam Speaker, ukiangalia nchi ya Uingereza ni nchi ya visiwa kadha wa kadha, ni bahari kila mahali. Hakuna nchi ya kulima kahawa, hawana nchi ya kufanya hiyo kazi. Sasa ilikuwaje tena wao wanaitwa English tea na hawana nchi ambao wanakuza hiyo kahawa? Madam Speaker, wametutumia vibaya kwa miaka mingi sana. Kwa hivyo tungependa sasa kupitia hii sheria, na wale wenzetu wa bunge la Senate na maseneta wenzangu ambao tunaiangalia hii sheria, tuipige msasa ili hata wale wawekezaji ambao wanakuja kuchukua haya majani ya chai waweze kuweka factory, viwanda ambavyo vitajaribu kuleta thamani kidogo, ili watu wakienda kuuza wasikie kwamba ni chai ya Kenya, sio chai ya wazungu wa Uingereza. Muingereza hajui hata kuchukua kuchuna ile majani chai, hawajui vile inafanywa hii maneno, lakini wamejiweka mbele kwa sababu wao ndio wanatengeza haya majani ya chai, wakayasaga na wakageuza wakayafanya kuwa ndio hii tunakunywa. Kwa hivyo Madam Speaker, mimi ningependa kuwaomba maseneta wenzangu ambao tuko hapa, hii sheria tuipitishe kwa roho moja, roho safi, tusaidie wakulima wetu ambao wanaumia sasa kwa ajili bei ni mbaya, na wale wanaofaidi ni mabwenyenye ambao hawajaona vile chai wanasumbuka kuleta hiyo chai pale sokoni. Na wale matajiri ambao wako katika ile tea auction kule Mombasa, sisi tuliwaona na hatukatai, mnafanya kazi yenu, lakini pia angalieni mkuwe na roho. Manake si haki wewe unapeleka gari nzuri ya air condition, unaishi maisha mazuri, unakaa nyumba nzuri, una bank account kubwa, lakini yule ambaye anakuletea hayo majani anaokutajirisha wewe na familia yako ni masikini mchochole, hata mtoto wake haendi shule. hii mambo si mzuri. Lazima waangalie tena namna ambayo mwananchi wa kawaida atapata fedha kwa ile kazi anayofanya. Madam Speaker, mara nyingi tukiwa tunaleta hizi sheria, wale mabwenyenye kule nje wanaziangalia, wakiangalia kuwa ni kitu gani ambacho tutaweka kama kizingiti ili ile sheria isipite. Wakisikia kuna levy hawataki kulipa. Kwa hivyo wanaangalia namna ya kuvuruga, ya kuharibu, ili yule mtu wa kawaida asipate, waendelee na yale maisha yao. Kwa hivyo Madam Speaker, nawaomba wale ambao wataangalia hii sheria, wale ambao tunaenda third reading, tuiangalie vizuri, tusiwapatie nafasi hawa mabwenyenye waendelee kuwagandamiza watu wetu. Manake mimi najua kuna watu wanaisikiza sana hii T-bill, wanaangalia na macho, na mimi najua, manake hata asubuhi leo nilipokuwa kotini, Madam Speaker, kwa kesi zingine tunafanya, kuna mawakili ambao waliniambia kwamba tunajua leo mnaenda kusikiza ile T-bill na tunaisikiliza. Mimi najua mabwenyenye wamewashawatuma watu ili waangalie ni namna gani watavuruga. Kwa hivyo naomba tuifanye kwa makini, tuifanye vizuri, tusipatie nafasi watu kwenda kuivuruga, ili wananchi wetu walio mashambani waanze kupata ile haki yao. Ile haki yao ambao Mwenyezi Mungu anawapatia kwa kazi wanazofanya mashambani. Kwa hayo mengi ambayo nimesema, Mama Speaker, mimi naomba maseneta wenzangu tuipitishe hii sheria, tuwasaidie wazazi wetu, ndugu zetu ambao wanafanya kazi ya mashamba, kazi ngumu ya kukuza majani chai. Kwa hayo mengi, asante Madam Speaker.
Senator Mutinda.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I rise to support the T Amendment Bill 2023 and really congratulate the Majority Leader for tabling this at a very important time because first of all, it does align to our manifesto as Kenya Kwanza on matters agriculture as far as the different cash crops are concerned. And tea is one of the key cash crops in this country, which plays a very key economic role into the different counties that do grow tea. It is the leading industrial crop in terms of its contribution also to the country's GDP. So it's a very important commodity to our country, putting in mind for the duration that tea farming has taken place in this country. Madam Speaker, as I just looked at the bill, I can see that its main focus is mostly on ensuring that tea farmers are protected, or the tea growers are protected, and there is less mismanagement of the tea growers by the different tea factories. I've looked at section 13B, which talks about the levy, and talks about the part 5, which talks about how the levy shall be appropriated in ranging from different percentages. I've looked at part A, which talked about 40% to the board for income and price stabilization. 30% shall be applied to the board for furtherance of or exercise of any functions of the power of the board. And I feel that the 40% and the 30% combined, it's a 70%, which is now taken up majorly by the board. And I've noticed that only 10% is applied to infrastructure development and 20% to the research. And in my view, where we are and ensuring that we have a high value and tea product, then the percentage for the infrastructure should be much higher, because we are at a point in 2023 whereby machineries have changed. Infrastructure is more and more advanced. So the higher the advanced, the higher the technology, then the higher the cost. And if only 10% will be set aside, the percentage looks a bit minimal, looking at what needs to be achieved and where we are coming from, and in terms of having an old technology or old type of machines that have been there. So the committee that is handling this, which is of course the Agricultural Committee, should have given much more percentage of the infrastructure, ranging between 20 to 25 or even up to 30. The other issue, which is research. Like any institution or like any commodity, the issue of research is a very key important factor, because then through the expertise, through the knowledge, through advanced trainings that should be able to take place in the Tea Research Institute or Foundation, then it brings to speed the different technologies or the different fertilizers, pesticides that are supposed to be used in terms of the agricultural knowledge by the tea growers, by the tea farmers, so as to ensure we improve our quality of the tea product. But when the allocation is a bit lower, then we might not achieve the required standards. Although it is good that it is in place, but the 70%, which is taken up by 40% of the board and 30% still on the functions of the powers of the board, should have been minimized, and that increased in the Research Institute and also in the infrastructure side. Madam Speaker, I've also looked at this bill, Part 15B, which talks about all immovable assets of the former Tea Board of Kenya and the former Tea Research, which were vested in Food Authority of Kenya and the Livestock Research, shall by virtue of this paragraph vest in the board of the foundation respectively. Yes, this is very important, putting in mind that agriculture is devolved, and this transfer of the assets is very key. But still, the bill should also have given a timeline after the bill is ascended and to when this should take full effect. Otherwise, when it is left open, then it becomes a part of the bill in terms of what should happen or what the bill states. But in regards to the timeline that needs to take place to ensure that all these assets are moved fast and effective to the right institution so as to ensure it achieves what needs to be achieved. But when it is left open, then it might take longer. And I'm talking from where we are coming from in what we've been able to see, where IGTRC has had challenges and delays in transferring some of the assets and equipment that used to be there in the first levels of counties. But as we speak right now, you find that there are still challenges that most of the assets have never been moved, they have never been transferred. Case example is the water companies, where we've come and realized they are still being held by the water companies, and they have not been, absorbed by the counties, knowing very well that counties are also the biggest shareholders in these different water companies in place. Madam Speaker, I've also been keen to note that the bill on Part 4 has talked about a person should not be appointed to be a chair of the board of directors unless that person holds at least a degree. This is an issue, Madam Speaker, I've always been very keen on, because at where we are as a country, we have so many degrees in place. And this tea commodity being an agricultural commodity, if it is left open in terms of any degree holder, then I ask, even a clinical officer, even an IT personnel is also, can also be a chair of the board. Then where do we leave all the students of agriculture who graduated with the agricultural degree if they are not narrowed to this opportunity, where this bill should be able to say that an equivalent degree in the field of the agricultural sector, so that there is an opportunity also for our students or for the experts who've been in the agricultural sector. You can imagine, with all due respect, whereby someone has done theology and now is the chairperson of this board, which experience, which knowledge, which skill do they then bring aboard as far as the tea sector, Madam Speaker, is concerned. It's very important to encourage the different learning levels and fields, so that we encourage our people in terms of openings. Otherwise, if we leave them open, it might not give maximum value as required. Madam Speaker, I want to conclude by saying that this is a way to go. We are going to support this bid. I've heard one of our colleagues talking about cartels who are now out there and seeing, maybe calculating in terms of how they're going to try and sabotage. But as members of this House, and I believe our counterparts in the National Assembly, if they've done their part, we are supporting, and we are going to support such that this amendment passes, but also with the few amendments that some of us have been able to put across. The issue, Madam Speaker, of also the market, direct sales by our farmers to the end user or to the final market is very important. This then reduces brokers who have taken the bigger share, and the farmers who are really putting all their sweat are not able to gain maximally, or are also not able to maximize their profits, because cartels and brokers have come in between and then minimized the maximum profits that are supposed to be attained by these particular farmers. But the amendment talks about direct sales, which then hence it's direct proceeds, hence direct and maximum profits. As I conclude, Madam Speaker, as Kenya Kwanza, we have been able to reduce the cost of the fertilizer from where it was at 7,500 to where it is today at 2,500. The taxation in regards to the raw materials of the pesticides, then these products reduce the cost of production, and then the farmer is able to get maximum profits, and this is the way to go. So we look forward to supporting it at the time that it comes for division. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
There are no more requests. I now call upon the mover to reply.
This is extremely important in the sense that, Madam Speaker, yesterday while moving the bill, I pointed out to the country of the need to continue on this journey of reform that was begun actually within the precincts of this House, a conversation among us as senators that has seen farmers earn better over the last 2 or 3 years. We must sustain the war until we get to a point where farmers continue to earn what is worth of their sweat. Madam Speaker, we hope to get to a time where we will broadly look down the future generations and assure them that we have actually fought economic colonialism. Madam Speaker, while our forefathers fought with colonialism that was administrative, colonial, and so on and so forth, this generation of ours must be able to pursue the economic rights of the people that we represent, which include, Madam Speaker, but not limited to, bills such as this to ensure that Africa's resources that are enormous, because we are a continent that is endowed with so much resource, but unfortunately is picked raw, and at the price of a penny, people get out with what is worth far more than that. This bill speaks to an attempt by us as a House to address this injustice and ensure that one of the most important crops in the country that earns and gives livelihood to millions of Kenyans is well taken care of, and in the years that are coming, our farmers earn better. I appreciate, Madam Speaker, each of the senators that have spoken on the tea issue. so that we can be able to benefit jointly and be happy about it and say that during our time in the Senate, this is the much that we are able to do. That when you drive down or up this road, Parliament Road, in other years when you are no longer in this house, you will look at this house with pride and appreciate the contribution of the senators that have made. I'm particularly interested by the comments by Senator Mungatana, speaking a few minutes ago, on how people have abused the wheels of justice to deny rights to the citizens that we represent. And Madam Speaker, this is a conversation that we need to have, because this is emerging jurisprudence. Where Parliament sits, Parliament is a representation of the 45 million of Kenyans. We sit here, we consider matters, and we vote on a bill that is considered under Article 1 as exercising delegated power that has been given to us by the people that we represent. Then, one judge, two judges, or three judges make a decision that deny the millions of the people that we represent the rights to enjoy that which has been passed by their representatives. Madam Speaker, in the same way in electoral petition, because it is considered that matters election, for example, within 6 months, they are dispensed of with because there need not be any gray areas on who is the actual representative of a certain group of people. I think we need to get to that particular point as well, where we ask ourselves, can courts stop legislation that has been transacted rightfully in a House of Parliament and keep it in abeyance for 2 years, as has been the case with the T-bill? There are more than 15 clauses in this bill of 2020, Madam Speaker, that today farmers cannot enjoy the rights of. And a judge is just issuing order after order, extending it without due consideration that there are millions of farmers that stand to benefit from the work that has been done by their representatives. I don't think that was the intention of our Constitution when we gave independence to our judiciary. It was not for justice to abort, it was for justice to get closer to the people. If as a judge, you know very well that you cannot conclude on a matter of great public interest, the best thing to do, write to the Chief Justice and ask for a greater empowerment so that you conclude, because this is a matter of enormous public interest. It is wrong. And in fact, the next time I run into Chief Justice Madam Martha Koome, I will remind her that legislation that has been rightfully transacted in the Houses of Parliament cannot be injuncted for years, especially on such important matters such as this. It is not right, and that is not the constitutional design that Kenyans bequeathed themselves upon. Therefore, you are right, Senator Mungatana, to argue and stand and say that we could be doing so much work as Parliament, but then there are sharks who know how to run and oil the wheels of justice, who are just waiting there in the courts, and the next day after the President assents into the bill and the good provisions that we made that will have benefited our farmers, it is suspended. And it stays for a year. And another one. Today we are in the 3rd year. And farmers will be benefiting from many of the provisions that are here. Just simply, in fact, isn't it judicial blackmail? I gave the history yesterday, Madam Speaker, and I said part of the reason why we are carrying some of these amendments, Senator Mungatana, imagine we've had to negotiate with some of these people and say, okay, you refuse the 1.5% levy that we proposed. What do you think will be fair? And they say, oh, 0.25 maybe. So you are negotiating because judiciary cannot make a decision on the matter. And you're wondering, what is it that you're arguing about? People have sat, their representatives have voted. Therefore, Madam Speaker, this is a serious issue that at the next state of the judiciary, when judiciary gives an account to Parliament of how they are undergoing their processes and works, that needs to be addressed, Madam Speaker, and we make a decision on this. Therefore, Madam Speaker, I appreciate the work
Senator Karen Nyamu, did you bow when you walked in? Can you go back and bow, please?
Madam Speaker, therefore, this is something that we need to strongly pursue and make a decision on. With those very many remarks, Madam Speaker, I beg to reply, and therefore, I beg to reply. Madam Speaker, again, I wish to make a request that pursuant to Standing Order number 66.3, I request that you defer the putting of question until a later date. I thank you, Madam Speaker, and request Senator Mungatana to second.
It is so deferred. Honorable Senators, we will now reorganize the order paper slightly, and I'd wish us to move on to order number 24.
Order number 24, the Water Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bills number 33 of 2023. Second reading.
Majority Leader?
Thank you. Madam Speaker, I beg to move that the Water Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 33 of 2023, be now read a second time. Madam Speaker, the Water Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 33 of 2023, was published in the Kenya Gazette, supplementary number 108 of 2023, dated 4th July 2023. This bill was considered by the National Assembly and passed on the 25th of August. Thereafter, the bill was referred to us as a House for consideration. The principal objects of this particular bill, Madam Speaker, is to amend an act, the Water Act of 2016, for the purposes of operationalizing the PPP partnerships in the water sector. You will recall, Madam Speaker, that the President actually spoke about this during the State of the Nation address in September 2022, when he called upon the House to help the government to actualize public-private partnership funding model for the water sector. And I dare say, Madam Speaker, it's not only for the water sector. While this is specific to the water sector, there are many other sectors, actually, of the economy that we need PPP to be actualized, including the road sector. Many people don't know and appreciate that actually perhaps the only PPP project that GOK has been able to successfully implement for the last 60 or 70 years is this expressway that we see here, Madam Speaker. The rest, if you go to the PPP unit of Treasury, you'll find their proposals and counter-proposals, do feasibility study, this or the other. Therefore, as a House or as Parliament, this is an avenue that we need to unlock. It need not be the business, Madam Speaker, of government to fund. If we expect that we are going to be taxed to fund almost every other amenity or project or programs of government, Madam Speaker, then we may never know economic prosperity as a country. And therefore, this is a step in the right direction, where we are amending the Water Act of 2016 to make it possible, Madam Speaker, for government actually to actualize this space. You know, Madam Speaker, that the water sector in our country continues to face several challenges that impact the availability, accessibility, and even the quality, actually, Madam Speaker. That is not just about it being available, but even the quality of what is available to our people. Therefore, access to safe and clean water remains a concern to us as a people. That there are many people in this country, and it may not be known. You know, Madam Speaker, one of the things that you should never lose as a leader, unfortunately, because of the comfortable lives that we live, is the feelings of the people that we represent. It is not known to many of us that while most of us in this house and those that are in maybe good formal employment will not struggle for a glass of water to drink, there are millions of citizens of this country that actually cannot access easily safe and clean drinking water. That is one of the importance of this particular bill, to make it possible for government to tap into other resources and for an available fee that is proper and considerate, be able, Madam Speaker, to make water safe and affordable to all our citizens. You know, Madam Speaker, water pollution remains to be a problem that is largely unaddressed to date. Of course, it's attributed to industrial effluents and agricultural runoff that continue to threaten actually the availability of water, Madam Speaker. Therefore, addressing these issues require concerted effort to improve on the infrastructure, enhance governance, and promote sustainable water management practices. This is something that is equally important. You know, Madam Speaker, that even in the many donor-funded projects that you know that are littered across the country of Kenya, Madam Speaker. Oh, this is funded by ADB, I don't know, GIZ, and so on and so forth. Unfortunately, both national and even county government in the water management programs that are run by them are not able to run these entities and to make them sustainable. Madam Speaker, you should take time to read the reports that I table in this House most afternoons about Kitui Water and Services and Sewage Company, Kericho, I don't know which other. All of them are actually loss-making entities, Madam Speaker. Many of them have got serious governance issues, and this is part of the challenge that we aim to address by bringing in the aspect of privatization, because, Madam Speaker, it has been proven times without number that because of the makeup of government and the people that are there in and how you arrive at people sitting in offices, they are not the best at doing business. That private sector actually handle and transacts better. That, unfortunately, Madam Speaker, in matters that are extremely important, such as water, of course we have to put in safeguards so that you don't end up in a situation such as with Kenya Power, where they are sole monopoly, they enjoy the economies of scale, but power continues to be beyond the reach of the average Kenyan. We must keep it somewhere at the back of our minds, Madam Speaker, that even as we go the PPP route in the water sector, what safety guards are we going to put, and the same is elaborated deep down in the bill, Madam Speaker, to ensure that even as we do water projects right now that will be run by private sector, Madam Speaker, there must be good regulatory control to ensure that Kenyans are not overcharged. I like the fact, Madam Speaker, that even though we are trying to do this now, you already know what is happening, Madam Speaker. You know the case, for example, here in Nairobi, that there are these water providers that move around in water bowsers. And there have been stories, I don't know how accurate, Madam Speaker, that some of them are actually responsible for ensuring that certain estates in the city of Nairobi don't have access to water so that their business can thrive. And I cannot put it beyond some of these people, because we know how business is transacted in this country. Therefore, Madam Speaker, we must be clear on the governance model of these institutions that we are putting in place. Government must retain the right. We must put a clause that eventually you must satisfy government that you are charging, but sufficient for you to transact and do business, manage your water, make it easily affordable, but not make exorbitant profit at the expense of a basic need. Water is a basic need, Madam Speaker, and therefore that's why part of this bill is providing. Therefore, Madam Speaker, clause 1 of the bill actually does provide just the article. Clause 2 of the bill proposes an amendment to section 2 of the Act to provide for new definitions, the usual preliminary things, and same with clause 3, Madam Speaker, that gives additional powers to the National Water Harvesting and Storage Authority. Clause 4, Madam Speaker, of the bill proposes an amendment to section 68 to provide for additional functions of water works development agencies. These ones that we know, Madam Speaker, that now they will have ability to run, control, and have a say in these PPP projects, something that is quite encouraging. Madam Speaker, section 5, clause 5 of the bill is an amendment to the new section 8 to provide for licensing of waterworks development agencies by the WASRA, Water Services Regulatory Board, a very important board, Madam Speaker, that ensures that these entities that run, first of all, have got practices that are competitive and practices, Madam Speaker, that guide the country towards achieving the dream of ensuring that every part of this country is water sufficient, so that this inequality of only certain parts of the country being able to enjoy this, Madam Speaker, is done away with. Clause 7 of the bill, Madam Speaker, provides for an amendment of section 72 to provide for additional functions of the Water Services Regulatory Board, to remove the powers, and give the powers to accredited water service provider. Madam Speaker, clause 12 of the bill provides for deletion of section 119 to establish a water tribunal. Madam Speaker, this is important because, like I said, if you get to a point where you allow business entities to just run these programs without necessarily putting in checks and controls, Madam Speaker, you can lose a very important control of a very important sector, Madam Speaker. That, by and large, Madam Speaker, are the objects of the bill, which I hope senators can have a debate on, read on the report of the committee, propose amendments, and ensure that counties have a say, because the essence of reticulation of water is a fully devolved function. Therefore, counties must be brought on board even as you sign on an agreement to ensure, if possible, Madam Speaker, in the revenue splitting mechanism, we perhaps may want to propose that counties earn something, even if just quite remedial, as a investor recoups whatever they have invested in, so that you don't have to wait for, while national government can wait for 27 years before earning anything from the expressway, Madam Speaker. I don't think if counties were to let go of this particular function, many of them actually earn from these water agencies, though, like I have mentioned, very few of them are profitable, Madam Speaker. Many continue to struggle with huge debts, and you understand the issues. Many of them actually were the institutions were set up during the days of councillors, you know. Therefore, you find a driver earning X amount of money, and the CEO almost similar amount. Very many issues of governance around that particular. Therefore, it will be important to do that particular cleanup. Therefore, Madam Speaker, I invite colleagues to read, support the bill, and make their decision so that we can grant Kenya a very important space, so that our people now in each and every, especially in our densely populated areas where people struggle sometimes to access even just water to drink, can eventually access it. With those very many remarks, Madam Speaker, I want to request Senator Danson Buya Mungatana to second. I thank you.
Senator Mungatana.
Madam Speaker, I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to make my contribution on this bill, the Water Amendment Bill, that has just been very ably moved by the Majority Leader, the Senator for Kericho, the Honorable Aaron Cheruiyot. Madam Speaker, I want to congratulate the mover of that bill because he has pointed out to a few but very important issues that circulate around water issues within the counties that we are facing. Madam Speaker, I was invited to sit in the PEAK Parliamentary Investments Committee headed by our very own Senator Godfrey Ososi. And in that sitting, Madam Speaker, Tana River County was required to explain some of the problems that Tawasco is facing. Madam Speaker, there were very serious governance issues. Madam Speaker, there were lots of financial problems and also issues of compliance with the requirements that would make the Tawasco operational in a manner that would help the people of Tana River. Madam Speaker, I was surprised to learn that without Tawasco making certain requirements against certain requirements that would enable it to reach some funding, to access funding from international organization. Madam Speaker, those requirements, some of them are so basic. Those requirements of governance, Madam Speaker, some of them just involve incorporation certificates, some of them just involved contracting an advocate who would take you through. Some of them just require just simple follow-up with government offices so that you can be able to get what is required in terms of compliance. Madam Speaker, because of that, you will find that Tawasco was not able to access huge grants that would enable it to give serious waterworks in Tana River County. Madam Speaker, in comparison, you will find other counties that had already met those criteria. those who had been able to access the funding from international donors, they had been able to meet the criterion because, Madam Speaker, of follow-up. So, Madam Speaker, I ask myself, what if Tawasco was in partnership with a private person, and that private person was actually following, because that is the source of his income, that is the source of his livelihood? What if that private person was part and parcel of Tawasco and he has shares there? Would he be defeated to follow up some certificate so that he can access a grant? Would he be defeated to follow up a small basic requirement like incorporation certificate so that he can access a grant worth billions? Would he be defeated to do that, Mr. Speaker? Would he be requiring the Senate Public Investment Committee to be ordered to do that? Madam Speaker, my answer is no. A private person will be self-driven. A private person will do everything and anything possible, Madam Speaker, to acquire cheap credit, to acquire grants to enable the business to thrive. So, Madam Speaker, if we are coming into a law that is saying we are now opening up the opportunities for county governments where we serve to be able to enter with responsible partners so that they can be able to raise required capital requirements, raise the necessary money, look for funding, go into contracts with those who have money, maybe long-term contract. Maybe, Madam Speaker, I can be protected from.
Senators Mutinda and Eddie, kindly consult in much softer tones.
So, Madam Speaker, you would imagine if a private person was a partner to Tawasco, Tana River Water and Sanitation Company. If that person was a shareholder, Madam Speaker, that person would look for all these requirements. That person would turn hell and heaven to make sure they access the grants. That person would go to any lengths, to go even to commercial banks, to make sure that they get the best equipment, Madam Speaker. They get the best personnel to carry out the works. Madam Speaker, even the kind of charging system that this county government, and I'm not saying it's only in Tana River County, but across the counties, Madam Speaker, where there are these water and sanitation companies, you will find it is not operated, it's not computerized. It is still manual. So you will find, because it is not computerized, there's a lot of pilferages, Madam Speaker. Now, if we have a private partner within any water and sanitation company or any contracting agency that enters a contract with the county government, they will not allow that, Madam Speaker. One of the first things when you get into business is to look at, can I make money? Which are the sources of possible theft? That's why, Madam Speaker, nowadays, you go to a restaurant, they'll tell you you can only pay by card or you can only pay by M-Pesa. You go to a gym, they'll tell you, we don't accept cash because we can only accept M-Pesa. Why? Because they want to make sure that there are no pilferages, Madam Speaker. So when you go into a private partnership with an entity that is a government entity, all those pilferages will be taken off, Madam Speaker. It will be computerized. Our meters will come reading the truth, not something that someone has made up. You will not be brought a piece of paper in this day and age to be told this is what you are supposed to pay. You will not need someone to visit your house to come and read the meter. The meter will be well operated and well monitored from a central point. Madam Speaker, I happened to have visited Germany, and I saw what they do with their sewerage system, Madam Speaker, the management of their water system. Madam Speaker, even using their own water system, they are able, Madam Speaker, to actually generate power, which is another source of income for the private public partnerships they do. So, Madam Speaker, I think for us as a Senate, it is time that we came out and supported this bill. And Madam Speaker, speaking for my own county, Tana River, I think we would really appreciate any private partner who would come and work with our county government. Why? Because the county government, even the national government, they have not been able to put infrastructure that would enable to satisfy the people of Tana River. Madam Speaker, the kind of water tanks, the kind of waterworks that we have were put up long time ago by colonial masters, Madam Speaker. If a private person comes and he is investing in Tana River County in the water sector, Madam Speaker, we would be able to have good machinery, good billing systems, good access of water. Madam Speaker, even the piping system, a private person would know that I need to spend money to invest so that the water from the River Tana would reach each and every individual so that I can make more money. But where we are having a county government that has limited resources, Madam Speaker, they will try but then leave it at some point. They will do one or two things, do political decision making and say, this is not important, let us focus on something else. But Madam Speaker, I see if we open up this sector for investment by people, we will also be encouraging what we call employment and development, skills development in that area, Madam Speaker, because there are people who specialize in that area. The other day, Madam Speaker, we sat as a Senate Energy Committee, and we were talking with suppliers of these electricity meters. And Madam Speaker, we discovered that the suppliers of electricity meters, and whose greatest customer is the Kenya Power, there are just 6 who are able to manufacture. And most of them, Madam Speaker, are Chinese. If they are not Chinese, they are Korean. And if they are not Korean, maybe only one company was fully owned Kenya. The other companies were owned by Chinese or other investors. Madam Speaker, I learned that, and we challenged them in the Senate Energy Committee, why can't you have transfer skills? They said it is going to take time. So, Madam Speaker, even in the water sector, we would need transfer skills. We would need skills transfer to our people so that they can see this is an area of investment they can go into, and it will create employment, and it will create wealth, local wealth for local people, Madam Speaker, for Kenyan people who will see that there is an area of investment that I can go into and make a good living, because everybody will need to drink water one way or the other. So, Madam Speaker, I think it is time that we really think to get into public-private partnership, even in the water sector. Madam Speaker, the Constitution says that Article 43, Madam Speaker, it says that that every person has a right, Madam Speaker, to clean and safe water in adequate quantities, Madam Speaker. And then at the bottom, it gives this responsibility to the state. It says, the state shall provide appropriate social security to persons who are unable to support themselves and their dependents. And Madam Speaker, when you look at these social and economic rights, they are called the progressive rights, the progressive human rights. They are not like the first generation human rights. These human rights are supposed to be attained over a period of time, so that they are progressively attained, Madam Speaker. And when you look at counties that have that capacity issues, like our county, Madam Speaker, we still need clean water. We still need it in adequate quantities. But where there's no investment, Madam Speaker, it is good for us to tweak the law, to twerk the law, to allow private capital to come in, partner with county governments, Madam Speaker, and allow for investment in this sector. When the government is saying, let us go let us open up this place so that people with capital can invest, Madam Speaker, it is a plan. It may not be a perfect plan, but it is a plan. Why? Because the demand is so huge. And all of us looked at the budget, and we know the development vote that the nation of Kenya has is very minimal. Madam Speaker, education takes up almost everything. And when you look after education, you go to defense. And when you go from there, you go to health. Madam Speaker, when it comes to water, there's little money that is left for development. And then, Madam Speaker, when we have emergencies, even emergencies that can, wipe out the contingency fund that is there for the nation, Madam Speaker, you will find that these emergencies go to those vulnerable ministries, like the Ministry of Water. But, Madam Speaker, if it is private capital, nobody will come there to touch what you are doing. And when the government is saying we are opening up this session so that we can progressively achieve clean water, according to Article 43 of the Constitution, in progression and in sufficient quantities, Madam Speaker, I think this is a good step forward. And I've argued before, and I will continue to argue, that the problems of this country, Madam Speaker, they will not be solved with good political intentions. The problems of this country, Madam Speaker, are going to be solved with hard work, legislative framework, good policies, hard-working ministers, hard-working legislators, Madam Speaker, who will deliver good quality legislation that mirror the policy framework, so that, Madam Speaker, our people can have the full benefit of an administration that is responsible. And, Madam Speaker, we think for this time, the State House occupant at this time, His Excellency the President, Madam Speaker, has taken time to make sure that what he is talking about, what was done in the campaign trail, some people have sat down to think about the policy framework, to think about the legislative bulwark that will buttress the policy framework, so that even when this gentleman leaves office after 10 years, Madam Speaker, we will have taken a long step forward towards a better Kenya. Madam Speaker, I think it is time that sometimes we stop the politics, we stop the noise-making after the elections and sit down and do the hard work. And this is part of it, Madam Speaker. I'm convinced that this legislation, and I commend it to all those who may not even have time to read, that we need to change the Water Act to accommodate these amendments so that, Madam Speaker, we can have opportunity to attract capital that is private capital into investing in the water sector, that our people can have good, clean water according to the Constitution and in sufficient quantities. Madam Speaker, I beg to second the bill. I thank you.
Honorable Senators, I propose the question that the Water Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bills number 33 of 2023, be now read a second time. Senator Mutinda.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And let me start by saying that water is a very key, basic commodity for each and every household. Each and every woman, each and every youth, each and every man needs water. It's very basic and it's key. Madam Speaker, I'm coming from a point of being a member of an oversight committee known as CPEC. We have been privileged as members of this committee, and I'm happy that Senator Mungatana has been able to have an opportunity to appear before this committee on matters water companies that have been there. We've been oversighting, and our committee has been a new committee. And I want to state out of the experience and the knowledge that as members of the CP committee, we've been able to oversight and come across different concerns by these water companies. Let me start by saying that the issue of private partnership, private PPP partnership, it is positive in the sense that then there is more financial muscles by the private sector in terms of ensuring that they are able to supply with the modernity that is required and the magnitude and quantities. But the problem of having private people coming and doing the water business, then we increase the number of cartels in this country. Let me speak from what we were able to gather from the committee on the issues that arose from these water works development agencies. Madam Speaker, we realized that the water works development agencies were the decision makers in terms of holding the assets that they've been holding for the longest period. These assets are under them, yet they are being utilized by the water companies. These assets have never been transferred. These are issues that we came across and raised as concern. The biggest worrying issue, Madam Speaker, was the issue of loans. That the water companies would take, the water agencies, development agencies would take loans, and these loans would be paid by the water companies. There is no freedom by the water companies for the longest. And actually, as we continued prosecuting the different water agencies across the different counties, then as a committee at that point, we came to a conclusion and an advice and wisdom of saying these water development agencies should be scrapped off because they've been really making it hard for the water companies. Madam Speaker, we came across what we call the non-revenue water. Non-revenue water, according to the WASREP regulations, should be about 25%. And the water losses that percentages that were indicated across most of them were ranging as high as even 50%. And most of them indicated the issues of the COVID-19 in the year 2020 and 2021. They could not be, the water losses ranged from the physical water loss and the commercial water loss perspective. The other issue was the going concern. Most of these companies were dead. They did not have capital to run. They were running on losses. We never came across a company that was making profit. And what was worrying, Madam Speaker, was the fact that most of these companies, people were still earning their salaries very comfortably, yet losses were a normal thing. We were able to even go down into the issues of who are the owners of this company. Madam Speaker, let me state before this House that one county, none other than the county of Murang'a, we came across one of the biggest businessmen in this country who was also a director in the water company. And when we summoned that we needed the updated CR12, then they quitted from being directors of these companies. So you realize the level of corruption that has been there. It has been too much, it has been very massive. And I would advise the majority leader that we need to look at this issue of privatizing the water companies very keenly, knowing that water is devolved. And so when we talk about the collection of the water collection, when we say national water collection or storage points, and we talk about Nairobi being the capital. When, for example, it rains, we cannot say that we are collecting water that has rained in a region like Kitui, then we collect it for the Nairobi factor. No, because I mean, it is across, and so each and every county should be able to manage their water company. It should be within the county levels. Article 9, 1 talks about a contracting authority may enter into a public-private partnership or public partnership for the exercise and performance by another person as a license. Now, this this statement of saying another person now gives private people opportunity to be able to have these water boozers around this town. And an area that has been highly affected is the Nairobi County, whereby we have cartels who have sabotaged the normal Nairobi water so that they can be able to reap massively from this, from their business of supplying water. So this clause should be amended to read performance by counties, Madam Speaker. There's the issue of the tariff issues. When the issue of tariff, we looked at it, Madam Speaker, we realized that there has been so much delays and so much inactiveness in ensuring that the tariffs are there on time and have been approved on time. There have been challenges. So you realize that the issue of the going concern is because these tariffs have not been amended, and then they have affected. The greatest issue that has been there with these water companies, Madam Speaker, again, is the issue of governance. We have incompetent people, who have served for these water companies for the longest period of time. And as I've said earlier, Madam Speaker, there is no company that reported profits. It was losses throughout. And people are seated in office earning salaries at the end of every month. Where people have served in these companies for the longest period of time, years and years. And there's no any single improvement. So the issue of governance, the issue of competence had been seen. And our suggestion, and my suggestion would be, the water works development agencies should just be, scrapped off, and we allow and strengthen directly the water companies that are also co-owned by the county governments. And you realize that the governors are also part of this directorship because, as Article 175 states, they are the CEOs of these different counties. So for us to be able to ensure that we improve on the water service provision for the different counties, then there should be much more support by the governors, by the different counties, supporting the water companies, which we've seen some counties have been able to do it. Some, it has been also political and chaotic, whereby some agencies, are leaning more to one county unlike the other county. At times there is co-sharing of the assets, and at times co-sharing of, different assets across. And then it affects, because when it comes to the loan, one county is paying the loan and the other county is not paying that particular loan. Yet at times that county is still paying recurrent expenditure like the electricity for this particular water company. The hospitals that need water provision by the water companies, you find that now there are issues, so many issues that came about, and mostly they were championed by this water development work agency. So the support should be much more on the water companies directly owned by the county government, and focus on not giving more powers to these agencies, because they've really messed up the operations of these water companies, as we were able to come across and we were able to see. What I like is on Chapter 7, which talks about the water tribunal. The water tribunal sounds tremendous, because in the longest of our oversight, we never came across that any set body that can be able to intervene, because we realized there were so many issues to the extent that when a new governor has come in, and maybe he or she is not aware, so the managing directors, caution some of the governors and sound like the managing directors are the final sayers of the decisions of the water company, forgetting that the governor is the CEO and is the boss of still of that particular water company, as much as there's the particular managing director. And we were able to correct a lot of these anomalies. We were able to bring much more light to these particular companies. And as we were closing, I remember a few months ago, a lot of improvements have been done. But the solution is a wrap-up of these water development agencies because of the level of incompetency that we came across, the poor governance that we totally came across, and that affected women of this country, youth of this country, men, in not getting sufficient water supply as they're supposed to get. So there needs to be a lot of more discussion as this on the issue of the water amendment bill. That will be my contribution, Madam Chair.
Senator Okech Eddie.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I really wish that, and I know that majority leader perhaps is within the premise of the chambers, but I really wish that he could be able to listen in to some of the feedback that you want to give on this particular bill, Madam Speaker, because I think that this bill is a critical bill that does affect one of the most essential functions of governance, Madam Speaker, that is actually fully devolved. And water is unlike any other function that is fully devolved. And the reason why I'm saying that is unlike any other function, because without water, you face a serious existential threat. And Madam Speaker, the context perhaps can be equal to what we have seen in healthcare. The moment you leave healthcare in the hands of private individuals completely, then it becomes completely inaccessible to some people. To the extent that despite the fact that people are contributing a lot of money in different healthcare schemes in this country, Madam Speaker, accessing healthcare, especially when you get into a condition whereby you have got some terminal diseases in this country, Madam Speaker, becomes the most hardest thing you can ever experience. And that is what we are facing with water in this country, Madam Speaker, to the extent that if water was fully commercialized and commercial viability becomes the only angle with which you want to be able to get water in this country, Madam Speaker, then it becomes a commodity that will be out of reach of so many Kenyans. And that is why the framers of the Constitution, under Schedule 4 of the Constitution, Madam Speaker, saw it best to actually devolve this function. And not only devolve the function, Madam Speaker, but also try and give counties full control of water. For instance, if you read PFM Act, I think Section 182, does provide for a room for counties to establish corporations, Madam Speaker, such that these corporations can then become the vehicles with which you can be able to allow for commercial viability of this kind of commodity, while also allow for service provision with this kind of commodity. And if you read Section 184, subsequent Section 184 of the PFM Act, the structure with which these provisions are given are therefore structures that are supposed to enable not only focusing on being able to make these corporations viable, but also being able to make counties accountable and, more importantly, take ownership of these water services and these corporations that are giving us what I would call essential services, Madam Speaker. And Madam Speaker, if you look further into Section 77, Madam Speaker, of the Water Act that we are seeking to amend today, the Water Act 2016, if you read it together with Part 2 of the Water Services Regulations that were established in 2021, Madam Speaker, it further emphasizes the role of the county executive and its members to be able to take full responsibility on establishing what the Act calls water service providers. Why am I giving this backdrop, Madam Speaker? It's because we have experienced a number of times when water is left in the hands of private individuals, it taking the simple course of the market economy, whereby you're leaving water to supply and demand theories. But the truth is, the availability of water in this country, Madam Speaker, is not evenly distributed. The access to water is not evenly distributed. Today, if you go to Turkana, Madam Speaker, you will find that there are few water bodies that people can be able to access. There are no predictable rainfalls in that region. If you go to Mandera, you find that, something like now when there is El Nino, people face extreme weather conditions in certain times of the year and extreme weather conditions in the other, whereby at some moment it's extremely hot, some people cannot be able to access water, and at some moment it's extremely cold and wet in such a way that even if you are able to access surface runoff of water, Madam Speaker, it is not safe for consumption. And that is why the case for water is something that we cannot lose sight of, giving counties a framework and a legal basis for being able to control it absolutely, to the extent that everybody can at least have some sense of equity in terms of access and availability. And Madam Speaker, this bill is against that spirit. This bill is against that spirit of ownership, absolute ownership of water provision and water services in our counties. And Madam Speaker, I'll walk you through some of the amendments that this bill seeks to bring and why I think that they are hugely problematic. Not only problematic because they're going to prohibit the idea of access to water and availability of water to different counties, but also, Madam Speaker, prohibitive in the sense that they're going to claw back completely on why we do have the function called devolved units in this country, Madam Speaker. For instance, Clause 4 of the bill proposes the amendment of Section 68 of the Act to provide for additional functions of waterworks development agencies. Madam Speaker, I am a member of CPIC. This entire year, one thing that I've been doing together with our colleagues and under the leadership of our able chairman, Senator for Vihiga, Senator Osotsi, is to be able to look at what we call CSPs, all the water service providers in all our counties across the country, Madam Speaker. These water service providers are facing some of the serious eminent challenges from the waterworks development agencies, to the extent that I personally believe, and I believe that should this debate continue next week, the members of our committee will tell you that one of the reasons why we have got dysfunctional water services in our counties is because of these waterworks development agencies. They are completely making it difficult for water service providers to operate. One, they control all the asset-based that are there to provide water. These assets are sitting in their books. They are using those assets to take loans, huge loans from banks. And those huge loans are not restricted to the water service providers and their activities in respective counties, to the extent that where that loan is used, we cannot be able to substantiate. And then what happens? They are forcing counties to pay for those loans on those water services, loans that they are not part of, loans that they don't even know why they were taken in the first place, and loans that are not integrated with those respective counties' development plans that MCS work very hard to develop. So if there is one thing that this bill could have even proposed, it's the banning and disbanding of all these waterworks development agencies. We don't need them, Madam Speaker. Because if you look at things like integration of bulk waters across bodies, right now as we're talking, WASREB is struggling to be able to cluster some of the water service providers in different counties. I know for sure that Kisii and Nyamira are having a stalemate right now on who runs the Kisii water company that is doing the biggest provision of water in that area. There is nothing like a water development agency coming to help them be able to provide water in a way that they are developing similar infrastructure. In fact, they have approached the committee. We have had the governor and the executive of Nyamira approaching the committee to be able to help them separate these two companies, which I think is the best spirit. And so is the governor for Kisii, Governor Simbarati, has approached the same committee to separate these particular WSPs so that everybody can provide water that is safe, that is accessible to their respective counties in volumes that can be able to sustain their populations. So we don't need these water agencies. Number two, Madam Speaker, these water agencies, while they have these assets of water provision in these counties in their balance sheets, the servicing of those assets, there is no proper agreements that are drawn between them and WCSPs. And it's not that they don't have capabilities of being able to draw these agreements. It's a deliberate way to make sure that they can strain those water service providers financially by essentially making it easier for them to own the assets and use them for whatever purposes of their balance sheets. But on the other side, the servicing of vehicles, the servicing of equipment, the servicing of every single infrastructure that are used for water provision in those counties are left to water service providers. This is training governors, is training these counties, and you can imagine, Madam Speaker, where we have got serious delays like right now in what we call exchequer requests, whereby counties are trying to get money to be able to run different functions. Where there is serious delays in resources going to the counties, Madam Speaker, it becomes completely impossible for these water services providers to be able to operate. Secondly, Madam Speaker, Clause 5 of the bill proposes the insertion of a new Section 68A to the Act to provide for licensing of waterworks development agencies by the Water Services Regulatory Board. This is WASREB, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we have been dealing with the issue of non-revenue water in the counties. This is one of the biggest issues. WASREB itself did describe that for commercial viability, at least every single water service providers in every single county should not have more than 25% of total waters that they get being non-revenue water. What has been happening in these respective counties, Madam Speaker, is that all the water service providers are facing serious challenges with being able to control their non-revenue water. That means that the fundamental mandate of WASREB, which is ensuring commercial viability of water service providers in our respective counties, is completely defeated. And it's defeated because they have got a good idea prescribed to a wrong disease. And this disease, Madam Speaker, I'm looking at time, and Madam Speaker, I don't get it because when I look at time, I think it is. I just seek your indulgence, Madam Speaker, because I got in when it was 6:14, and I'm seeing my time. So I think I still have a lot of time, but you'll guide on that when the right time comes. Madam Speaker, I was saying that when you try to dissect the causative factors of non-revenue water that makes it completely financially viable, Madam Speaker, then you will realize that WASREB has completely failed in its mandate, not only of licensing, but also being able to ensure that there's commercial viability of these entities. For instance, Madam Speaker, if you look at physical losses that comprise non-revenue water, Madam Speaker, those physical losses are not caused by mere recklessness of counties. They are caused by serious development activities that are going in those counties. For instance, you find that pipes that are providing water in different areas in those counties, like right now, Migori County, we have got so many roads that are being done, both paved and unpaved roads, and sometimes they end up passing in areas where there are pipes that had been constructed before. This has got nothing to do with commercial viability angle by the counties. It has got something to do with development that's going on in counties that makes it just difficult for people to physically plan well and avoid destruction of those pipes. In other areas for these physical losses, Madam Speaker, we have seen that is basically due to dilapidated pipes. Pipes that are old, some are metering issues, that those meters have been so old for the longest time, to the extent that the response is not a simple equation of just investment and attracting private partners to come to invest in these companies. It's just an issue of being able to invest in infrastructure that is updated, that is modern, and that can be able to accommodate the kind of volumes that counties are doing. Has got nothing to do with WASREB. But now, our biggest problem that we have had in this committee is that you find that the response by WASREB to those kind of problems become the issue of tariffs. That if there is non-revenue water in any region, our response as WASREB is let us review the tariffs. Let us impose more tariffs. Let us keep on regulating the tariffs. Madam Speaker, we don't need WASREB. We don't need WASREB. If the issue is about safe and good water for people to consume in the counties, give the power to governors in this country to be able to take control of standards of water that people drink in their counties. I trust our governors to be able to work with MCAs to establish standards in those respective counties to ensure, Madam Speaker, that there is safe water within the borders of those counties. But don't leave it to WASREB to put some blanket kind of descriptions, blanket kind of definitions, blanket kind of supervisions that do not resonate with the challenges and opportunities that some of these counties face. If you look, for instance, the component of what we call commercial losses, basically losses that are coming with lack of enforcement of billing system and invoicing, proper invoicing, Madam Speaker, has got nothing to do with WASREB. That is a commercial practice that can be able to be controlled by different counties in their own ways, Madam Speaker. So if there is anything that this bill could have actually helped us to do, is to do away with the waterworks development agencies and to do away with WASREB, so that this WASREB figure in water bodies in our country and water provision in our county can be able to be taken back and be given the power to counties. Madam Speaker, Clause 6 of the bill proposes that the amendment of Section 69 of the Act to provide for clarity between the roles of waterworks development agencies